a descendant of the first long-lived sect and the first to obtain an immortal body in the immortal world. When he was born, the sect was destroyed, and although his flesh died, his immortal body survived. But it was only able to cross over to the underworld and enter the cycle of rebirth. Chung Sui opened his eyes, already an ordinary mortal trapped in the human world. Once reborn, he found himself in a royal family, but he was considered ugly at birth, and the royal family gave him up to save their face. The child was rescued by a poor Taoist monk. He took him to the mountains and raised him there. But the great soothsayer warned him that he would not survive 19 years. This year he turned 17. The monk said that the young man had 2 years to live. He should go and see the world, ordinary people. Zhou Chengsui's great-grandfather, one of the most respected in the celestial realm. He had built the 95 Blessings Gate to unite the immortal world. He hoped for eternal peace. Thousands of years later, his grandfather was born to pass on the legacy. His great-grandfather named him Zhu Tai Sui, meaning heavenly longevity, so that he could long rule the realm of celestials and keep it at peace. But our hero's grandfather spent his entire life rubbing his pants and squandering the family's property. This caused the position of the 95 Blessings Gate in the immortal world to shake, and the major sects became independent. Another 100 years later, his father was born, by which time his grandfather had already regretted his lifestyle, but it was too late. To be worthy of his ancestors, his grandfather named his father Zhu Wansui, hoping that he could lead their sect back to glory. At that time, the family had already lost its luster, and the strength was already incomparable to the past. Although his father fought desperately, he was helpless and could only watch as the sect fell into decline. Decades later, Zhu Chengsui was born. His father's desperate life was coming to an end. He knew there was nothing he could do to bring back the 95 blessings. By naming his child this way, his father hoped that he would live a peaceful and long life without worries. Because this family had made too many enemies in the past, the young man was destroyed by these enemies at an early age. Fortunately, his great-grandfather's golden body protected the young man. Therefore, his soul did not disappear, and for the same reason, he entered hell, passed through, and entered the mortal world. Zhou Chengsui was relaxing on the lawn and thought that it was very cool. Cool was everything he had just narrated. The kids who were listening to him asked, if he was so cool, why didn't he choose a good family when he was reborn? After all, he's not cheating by telling these stories, is he? The young man said he wasn't fooling anyone. Had they seen anyone who could talk right after birth? A little girl, one of the listeners, asked, isn't it ugly to speak right after birth? The young man agreed with the girl and said, that's why they threw him away, because they thought he was ugly. The children asked Zhu Chengsui with interest, can he defeat the monsters that are near their village? The young man said that it was easy to defeat these monsters, but there was no point. Therefore, he suppressed them with his power to guide them in the future. Somewhere not far away, beyond the forest, a noise was heard. The young man jumped up from his seat and said, this sound is made by the monsters he suppressed. They are raging again, and he must return to calm them. He told the children that there would be no more stories for today, and they could disperse. The village children saw the young man quickly running away in the direction from which the noise was coming. They thought that this young man was very strong. The young man came to some house and knocked on the door. He said that he had brought his teacher some fasting food. The teacher opened the door and said that it was indeed a fast day. He said hello to the young man. Zhou Chengsui said that the old man had taught him Taoism for more than 10 years. Then he went into a monastery. Therefore, fasting was his destiny. The old man said it's all wrong. He practiced Taoism and studied all his life despite his position, and the young man learned it all in 2 years, so he, as a teacher, is ashamed of such a student. The old man took food out of his bag and said that it was fortunate that he, as a teacher, had realized everything in time. It was not too late to turn to the Buddha. Zhou Chengsui clarified whether the young man had really turned 17 this year. The young man asked, what's the matter? Zhu Chengsui inquired of the elder. Didn't he believe in the Buddha? Why is he still guessing on his fingers? The old man told the young man to shut up, because he is now counting on his fingers the time for the young man to return home. The young man smiled and said that the old man was probably now counting the days he had left to live. If the young man leaves now, the teacher won't even have food to eat. The teacher said that the young man has no respect for him at all. The old man recalled that the year he brought the young man newborn, he was very surprised at his Taoist roots. He was a consummate genius, but fate was so unfair that he would not be able to become great. The old man continued, over the years he had used up all the knowledge he could give the young man, and now his life was coming to an end. He probably won't live to see the young man's day of calamity. Zhou Chengsui said thoughtfully that there were only 2 years left. The old man replied that it was a pity to waste 19 years of his life in isolation. Therefore, in these last 2 years, the teacher suggested that the young man go and see the mortal world. A few days later, Zhu Chengsui packed his luggage, stood in the old courtyard, and looked at the small house where he had lived for 17 years. The teacher told the young man to go and leave all regrets here. The young man said goodbye and told the teacher to take care of himself. Zhu Chengsui mentally told his father that he was returning. The ruling dynasty of Dahun, the first among the rest of the entire mainland. Ever since Emperor Zhu inherited the throne, only the descendants of this family became officials. Back then, the empire began to grow and strengthen. Everyone hoped that the Zhu clan would exist forever. In Juping Palace, Zhu Baichuan listened as a servant told His Highness that the necessary arrangements had already been made. The man, still going about his business, told the servant that he did not wish to discover the leakage of any papers. Baichuan told his son, Zhu Tianye, that he had already reached the 3rd level of the realm of primordial existence. The young man replied that he had broken through to the 3rd level of the primordial existence realm a few days ago. Now the energy was bubbling within him like 1,000 seas. The father said that this was not bad. He thinks that his son will have no problem entering the Yuantian sect. Among the younger generation, the young man is unrivaled, but he shouldn't be arrogant. He knows that there are other young men who have reached the same level. So there is competition present. Baichuan continued, the famous sect master will choose the most worthy among the young men. The young man said one of the competitors is no more than 12 years old. In addition, this one is a girl. The father said for the son not to worry. He has some connections within the sect. As long as the young man will act as usual, becoming selected will not be a problem. The man said for the son to go back and keep his mother company. After joining the sect, it will be difficult to go home. Baichuan added that his son can be calm. For his sake, his father would remove all hindering obstacles at any cost. Zhou Chengwei got to the metropolis and thought that the biggest city of the dynasty didn't turn out to be anything special. The young man overheard a conversation between young men. One was wondering why they were still here. We should move quickly. Meng Nianqing is now on the city bridge. He is the only descendant of Sage Jiang, a saint archer. The interlocutor added, no matter that she is a descendant of a sage, she is the first beauty of the sect. Seeing her was like seeing the goddess of the entire era. Zhu Chengshui didn't understand what people were talking about. The young man saw everyone running towards the city bridge. He decided to follow them. The boy decided that he absolutely had to see the first beauty. Everything around the city bridge was filled with people. Everyone was excited about Xuantian's first beauty, Meng Nianqing. Zhou Tengshui climbed onto the roof of a neighboring building and watched the girl as well. Rumors had dubbed her the first beauty for a reason. The young men watching the girl were all universally in love with her. They said that perfect people were too gorgeous. Zhou Chenghui took a closer look and agreed with the majority's opinion. This girl is really good. The young man decided to take action. He jumped onto the sidewalk and headed towards the young lady. Everyone wondered, who was he and where did he come from? Would he really dare to approach this girl? The people around him continued to think that this young man was crazy. His approaching the girl was akin to defilement. This sick man has no fear of death at all. He's digging his own grave. Zhou Chengsui walked up to the girl on the bridge and, to attract attention, slapped her butt. The girl looked at the young man in surprise. He asked her to be his wife and promised to make her a big room. The girl didn't expect such insolence. She pulled her sword out of its sheath, put it on the young man's shoulder and asked, is he really looking for death? Although Meng Nianqing was extremely quick to bear her sword, for Zhu Chengshui, it was just as slow as ever. The young man said that pointing the sword at his future spouse was very rude. The young man was calm and smiling. The girl was astonished. Who would have thought he was able to block her sword? What's wrong with his cultivation? Is it really higher than hers? Zhou Tengshui grabbed the girl's hand and drew her to him. The guy asked, aren't these beautiful hands better for embroidering floral patterns? That's a big loss. The young men watching the scene were horrified. Could it be that someone had touched Meng Nianqing? How was this possible? It was said that she had already reached the 7th level of the primordial existence realm. She is like an unreachable sky to her peers. But all of a sudden, some boy was able to defeat her. How inexhaustible is his talent? Everyone thought if the boy is able to match this girl, his level is at least 7th grade. It turns out that he is a true genius. Meng Nianqing used her unrivaled talent to enter the Xuantian sect and become the successor of one of the 10 sages. The girl thought that this young man was about the same age as her, but it was obvious that his cultivation was superior to hers. The girl wasn't going to put up with such disrespect and applied a rain of punishing arrows to the young man. The audience was startled. It was said that the rain of punishing arrows was one of the strongest techniques of the 10th sage, and the girl had already mastered it, so the young man is about to die. The young man was not afraid and winked at his interlocutor. He wondered if the girl had stood there for so long to wait for him. He had no problem repelling the attack with arrows. Suddenly, the water surface bubbled and a giant silver fish jumped out. It seemed as if the fish was dodging the arrows, but it was too late. The rain of arrows struck directly at the fish. The young man struck the place where the fish had hidden with one hand, and the water parted, re-exposing the giant fish. The young man pulled the giant fish out of the water. Naturally, it showed no signs of life. The young man asked, "Wasn't this what the girl wanted too?" The young man added that the fish had been destroyed by her technique, so he was returning the thing to its rightful owner. Meng King asked, "Who is he?" The young man replied that he was no one for now, but in the future he will definitely become her husband. The young man stayed at a city hotel. He spent the night there. On waking up in the morning, the young man decided to meditate. In this world, spiritual energy is too weak. He does not even know when he can return to the world of immortals. The young man heard a noise downstairs. He wondered, why is it so lively? Someone said that Zhuantian was recruiting new disciples. The young man went downstairs. Every 3 years, the sect opens recruitment, and half a month later, selection. But this year, it was as if it was different. Of course, this time, the 8 distinguished masters of the sect would personally recruit disciples. This generation of disciples is really lucky. If a master chooses someone, they will definitely soar into the sky. It is said that young master Zhu Qianye of the princely house has reached the 3rd level of the primordial existence realm. He will surely be chosen by a renowned master. The 3rd level is terrifying. If you are not the first beauty, then Zhu Qianye would be called extremely talented. Zhou Changshui turned to the young man and asked, "Which princely house are we talking about?" The young man replied that it was the residence of the emperor's younger brother. Zhu Beichuan, does the young man not even know that? Zhou Changshui said that he admired Prince Zhu very much and hoped to meet him face to face one day. Zhou Changshui was going about his business. The young man asked in passing, does he really think that with his position he can see Prince Zhu? He doesn't distinguish between reality and fantasy. Zhou Changshui thought that after his father got rid of him, then he was lucky to have another son. Zhou Changshui pondered, should he join the election of disciples by the great masters? 2 weeks had passed. 8 tables, 8 representatives of famous masters. One had to choose the table of the master one wanted to bow down to and fulfill their ambitions in a crystal ball. Anyone who had reached the 1st level of the realm of primordial being would be admitted to the exam, and the names of those who had passed could be recognized on the test board. The registration fee will cost 1 low-grade spiritual stone. One must take a queue and enter the examination door. A young man approached our hero and asked if he didn't have any spirit stones. But Big Brother did. Zhou Changshui inquired under what conditions. The interlocutor explained, if the young man is chosen, he will return just 1 lower-grade spiritual stone. If not selected, the debt could be repaid with 100 stalks of tsuigu grass. Zhou Changshui thought that 100 stalks were equal in value to about 2 low-grade spiritual stones. But this kind of grass grows everywhere. The young man decided that it was a favorable offer. The interlocutor added that their small business never cheats customers. The businessman suggested that the young man first put his signature. The deal went through and Zhu Changshui took the spirit stone. He said he was moving on to his next goal. It was explained to the young man that he just needed to put his hand on it. He said he was starting. The masters looked at the candidates. The young man thought, is this really the 4th level of the realm of primordial existence? The young man had a 4th level primordial existence realm. A famous master would definitely pay attention to him. Everyone thought it wasn't even noon yet and already such a genius had appeared. Everyone decided that this young man was definitely from an aristocratic family. It was Zhu Changshui's turn. The master invited him to put his hand on the crystal ball. Before this procedure, the young man thought, did he need to suppress his cultivation level? It probably wouldn't be a good idea to stand out too much. The fellow thought, if he showed cultivation of the 9th level of the primordial existence realm, the so-called 8 great masters would immediately all rush over here. The young man tensed up and placed his palm on the magic ball. The master announced that the young man had the 3rd level of the primordial existence realm, like everyone else's. The young man was asked to go in that direction. He passed the test. The lad thought, it seems that from the beginning, The entrance was only available to disciples of cultivation levels 3 and above. He had originally lowered his level to level 2 as he didn't want to stand out. The main thing was to be inconspicuous and more reserved. The young man walked through the door. An unusual place awaited him ahead. He had never seen such a place before. The boy thought that being in such a place was the limit of restraint. But if he wanted to return to the world of immortals, he had to overcome this backwater world. The young man thought that this spiritual pressure would also be a kind of test for him. Zhou Chengwei wondered if it was too weak. They probably just want a tickle. The guy noticed that it started off simple. But with each step, the pressure was getting stronger and stronger. He found this to be entertaining. Zhou Chengshui saw a young man ahead of him who had shown a level 4 in the test. It was very difficult for the young man. The pressure around him was only getting stronger. The competitor crouched down on a rock. He was already on the edge. It was so heavy that he couldn't move. Zhou Chengshui caught up with his opponent and asked why he was sprawled out here. He should get up and walk forward. The opponent asked, how can he walk? The pressure is already over 1,000 units. To even take a step, he has to try his best. Zhou Chengshui inquired, is it really strong pressure? The young man applied a hidden technique, repeatedly jumping from side to side. The young man turned to his opponent and said that he was making things up. We have to go forward. There is actually very little pressure. The aristocrat opponent was surprised. Did this guy really just jump? And he was doing it with a certain ease. Who is he? Could it be the inner court elder of the sect? Zhou Chengshui wanted to say something else to his opponent, but he suddenly disappeared. The young man thought that his real strength was level 7. Zhou Dongshui suppressed his spiritual energy, losing his 9th level cultivation. And he immediately fell from the external attack of spiritual energy. Zhou Chengshui cried out that this was all unbearable. He couldn't take it anymore. The young man calmed down and came to his senses. He thought that he had been affected by this. Zhou Chengshui suddenly found himself in an unfamiliar place. He couldn't understand what had happened. Who were all these people? Our hero thought that these 3 were in on it, well, or at least acquainted. Their expensive clothes suggested that they didn't just get here for nothing. Zhou Chengshui approached the aristocrat candidate and asked him what his name was. The interlocutor trembled all over. It seemed as if Zhou Chengshui had frightened him. The young man was frightened at first. Then after recovering a little, he said that he, Xiao Shizhen. The people present here thought that when Xiao Shizhen appeared here, it was clear that this person who seemed soft at first glance was actually stronger than all of them. But this fellow had just called him a weakling. The young man thought, a familiar feeling arising as he looked at him. The girl pounced on our hero and asked why he was looking at her so intently. Has he never met any beauties before? Zhou Chengshui said that he had met many beauties, but never one as beautiful as her. The female companion asked, what did that mean? Is this pathetic beggar really calling her ugly? Who is he to call her ugly? The young man said that he was the son of the richest man in the capital. The young man thought about Zhou Chengshui. This guy is a pathetic beggar. Even if his cultivation is higher, what can he do? There's no reason to be afraid of him here. Besides, he dared to offend his favorite girl. This young man said that this stranger had drawn a lucky ticket, and that was why he was able to enter here. The girl wondered how this loser was even able to pay the fee, since his level is very low. The young men decided that they were the best, and this stranger wouldn't be able to match them. Zhou Chengshui asked, why did they have such a high opinion of themselves? And also, they haven't even been accepted here yet. The son of the richest man in the capital said that this young man was a pathetic beggar, and his uncle, one of the 12 elders of the sect. The boy told many more of his relatives who are related to this sect. Zhou Chengshui looked at the young man and thought that this was exactly his famous younger brother. The young man said that he was the only princely son. Even the Xuantian sect showed him respect. The guy thought that in his eyes, someone like this young man was nothing more than an ant. One need only want him, and no matter how high level he was, with one slight movement of his hand, he would know hell for real. The young aristocrat said that there was no reason to rush. The first test of the sect was the pagoda. When the time comes, he will know how good he is. Colleagues said that this Chanye is very wise. Zhou Chengshui wanted to ask his interlocutor, which pagoda are we talking about? He looked around, but the young man sat far back from him. After a short period of time, there were already 20 or so people gathered. A golden light flashed, and a long-eared elder appeared with 5 young followers. Everyone immediately became animated. The elder said that the students present were the best students for the exam. Each one independently chose his desired mentor, and each was fortunate enough to get his attention. The young people were pleasantly excited. Some said that the mentor was watching him. Someone said that he would not deceive expectations and wanted to bow to his master as soon as possible. Hearing the noise, the elder became angry. He gathered his inner ki and opened his mouth. After the word "but," 29 people simultaneously felt an unbearable ringing in their ears. Everyone present grabbed their ears and lowered their heads. Only Jiu Changshui continued to stand calmly, as if nothing had happened. The elder thought, this young man seemed to have anticipated his attack. How could this be possible? After this attack, the elder said, even so, these representatives are a bit better than the rest of the disciples. How they perform in the trial will affect the choice of mentors. In this sect, everyone is equal. They can only rely on their own strength. One of the masters said that everyone will now receive a scoreboard. The first test is called the pagoda. The plaque will be an identity card. It allows one to participate in the test. Candidates should direct their QI to it. The master added that there will be a board outside with their names and the original first score. The pagoda is divided into 4 floors, each with its own passing score. Young people can only earn points by force by taking them from another participant. One has to make every effort to climb to the top. One of the candidates asked what to do in case one was in danger. The master said that young people should not worry. If such a thing happens, he would automatically be thrown out of the pagoda. The master continued, however, if the participant flies out on the 3rd floor and below, or he does not arrive at the last floor before the time is up, he will become an outer disciple of the sect. The 4th floor, the last floor. Those who reach it will become inner disciples of the sect, and the top 3 will become disciples of the great mentors. Someone asked, does one have to be among the top 3 to be chosen by the mentor? Another candidate asked, was there really only 3 spots originally? He was confident that he could become an inner disciple of the sect. Zhou Hengwei shook his plaque in his hand, deciding whether he should cause chaos here. After all, one's real name didn't necessarily need to be used to account for spiritual energy points. The master said, if there were no questions or objections, the trial would begin in half an hour. After the allotted time expired, all the 20-odd people and sect representatives disappeared one by one. Zhou Hengshui entered the pagoda. After moving here, the young man saw that he was in an enclosed space. A few steps in front of him was a staircase that had no end in sight. The young man thought that the people of this city knew how to do something, teleporting a short distance and creating a parallel space. For mortals, this was already a huge breakthrough. Zhou Changshui knew that the first step should be to overcome the staircase. The young man confidently moved forward. Although the pace was not fast, Zhu Changshui had been walking for a long time, but still couldn't see the top, and the steps that had been passed were hidden behind the darkness. The guy wondered if he had already passed the halfway point. In any case, there was probably a little bit left. The young man said that the weak-willed should have a nervous breakdown by now, but he's not like that. Moving at a steady speed, the young man caught up with the girl, another candidate. The young man thought, does meeting another participant mean that their space has begun to merge into one? The young man caught up to the girl with a confident gait and asked her what her name was. The girl looked back and was startled. She asked if her older brother had come to take her away from the pagoda. The young man shook his head negatively and said that he was a participant like her. The girl said that this young man scared her to death. She thought she was past it. The boy introduced himself. He showed his plaque and said his name was Wang Shishan, and inquired what was the name of his interlocutor. The girl looked the young man in the eye and said her name was Chu Qingling. Another female contestant joined the young people. The girl caught up with them and said she had finally found her. More young people reached from downstairs. The company grew larger. Below stood 2 girls and 2 guys. With the exception of Chu Di, everyone had a second level of the primordial existence realm. Zhu Changshui looked around at everyone and settled on a man. He had a bamboo hat and eyes hidden in the shadows. The corners of his lips were raised angrily. It made our hero think twice. The girl said that one was brave. Did she really think that the family wouldn't find out about her secret trip to Xuantian? The girl continued, did that one really hope that she could successfully complete her revenge for her shameless mother? She continued and said, what kind of mother, what kind of daughter, shameless? She continues to live at the expense of their Chu family. She's also thinking of running away. She continued to mock. She asked, who does the girl think she is? What right does she have to do this? Qiu Qinglan, listening to all of this, couldn't stop paling and blushing. She tried to say something, but she couldn't even utter a word. Drops of tears froze in her eyes. The young man saw all of this. Zhou Changshui told the offending girl, he believes that her face was taken out of the cesspool. Otherwise, why is her tongue? It is all garbage. The girl became angry. Is he really insulting her Chu family? Is he fed up with his life? The girl became very angry, and the man in the hat behind her attacked Ju Chang-sui. Ju Chang-sui said it was about her. Also, he doesn't know what kind of family the Chu family is. If it was explained to him, he wouldn't offend her. The man in the hat pounced on our hero. Ju Chang-sui stopped him and threw off the hat. He grabbed his head and lifted him up. The girl thought that this was her family's bodyguard. His cultivation had reached the 6th level of the primordial existence realm. He is her personal guardian, yet he was defeated so easily by this boy. Ju Chang-sui asked the guard, is he really hiding his cultivation level? It seems like the Chiu family is not properly cultivated. The guard said, it doesn't matter who his opponent is, but if he dared to obstruct their young mistress's trial, he would not escape being killed by the Shu family, even if he becomes the personal disciple of the great master. The girl said if the young man touched her, the family would pursue him until his last days. Ju Chang-sui said that these people talk too much. The young man decided to deal with the arrogant opponents and said that they dug their own grave. He pounced on them with fists. The competitors were surprised. Did they really fail so quickly? Ju Chang-sui escorted them out of the pagoda in the blink of an eye. The young man instantly defeated the 4 of them, and an inscription appeared on the plaque, 5. The young man took the girl's hand and called her beautiful. He invited her to go further together. Many participants began to appear on the stairs. Qiu Qingling and Ju Chang-sui continued on their way while talking. The young people continued walking and encountered quite a few youths who were snapping and disappearing with a white light. The girl said, luckily she went with this young man, otherwise she would have failed long ago. The boy asked if she had a grudge against those people. The girl nodded silently in the affirmative. Her face became sad. A light showed up ahead. Ju Chang-sui said that it looked like they had reached it. The young men found themselves in the forest. They had information that they had made it to the 2nd floor of the pagoda. The young man said that another challenge awaited them, and that wasn't a bad thing. They couldn't understand how this whole space fit in the pagoda. The young man said that this pagoda must be a spiritual weapon that creates illusions, like the endless staircase they were walking on. The girl said it was something like an engraved space rune. The young man said it was different. Runes have one independent space, while here a space can be inside another space. Due to spiritual energy, one can safely control hundreds of them and change them at will. The girl clarified. So everything in front of them is just a hallucination? The young man said that it wasn't either. Hallucinations are very aggressive techniques, and spiritual weapons don't have aggression. They are a kind of means. It all depends on what the person using it wants to achieve. Ju Chang-sui said that all of this was basic knowledge. She already has the 2nd level of cultivation, but she still hasn't learned this. The girl said that in the Chu family, she had always followed spirit plants. No one has ever trained her. She only knows a little about medicinal plants and nothing more. The young man thought that the 2nd level could be achieved using only medicinal herbs. Ju Chang-sui suggested that his companion should be busy looking for the door to the 3rd floor. It was announced that 2 more people had made their way to the 2nd floor of the pagoda. The young man stopped. The young woman asked what had happened. The young man looked up and said, "Here come the easy points." He saw the divine net. Ju Chang-sui was in no hurry. He calmly opened his palm and sent spiritual energy upwards. The huge net immediately hovered in the air. Unknown youths armed with swords appeared around the boy and girl. The girl cried out and subconsciously grabbed onto her companion's clothes. The unknown men with blades and bone shoulders rushed straight at our heroes. Although they each had one weapon, 2 of them launched a simultaneous attack on Ju Chang-sui. With a flick of his fingers, Ju Chang-sui was able to disarm the attackers and throw them far back. The girl was even more frightened, Ju Chang-sui said as she clutched at his clothes, and asked for her to let go. The girl opened her eyes and asked, "Where is the attacker?" Ju Chang-sui said. He said, "He warned that these would be easy points. There's nothing to worry about." A young man asked if his companion really wanted to enter the intersect. There was a message on the information board that Xiao Yufeng had scored 139 points. He is on the 2nd floor of the pagoda. The elder thought it seems like a great family this time has cultivated a really good guy. The conversation was about Xiao Yufeng. This guy was only on the 2nd floor. The real ability is revealed on the 3rd floor. The guy from the Ju family is also really good. A strong competitor had appeared. The young man continued to push his way forward. He threw aside competitors if they got in the way. Our hero's companion asked if anyone else had managed to get in, or had he fallen asleep on the endless stairs. The girl bit into an apple and said that Brother Shishan would definitely manage. Zhou Shuai said that the passage to the third floor has been found. One only needs to accumulate 100 points and one can move. The young man looked at his plaque. There was a message saying that he had 71 points. The boy reported that he needed to accumulate a little more. The young man's companion jumped down from the tree. The girl thought that if it wasn't for her, her brother would have reached the third floor long ago. Zhu Changshui said that being alone was too dreary. A companion would dispel the boredom. He said he would introduce her to a guy, and then the three of them would proceed to the third floor. Kyo Kinglin asked, "Who is this third person?" The young man said that she would soon find out for herself. Somewhere in the forest on the second floor of the tower, two young men were tied up. There were bruises and bruises on their faces. The young man at the side, who had most likely brought them to this state, said sadly that he still couldn't read a book properly. He wondered, does it really only take 100 points? Why does he need so many? Zhou Gongshui walked over to the young man and was surprised. Had he really accumulated all 100 points already? The young man saw Zhu Changshui and became nervous. Why did this guy appear in front of him again? Zhou Changshui suggested that the young man should become friends and become comrades. The interlocutor said he didn't want that and was leaving. The young man said if Zhu Changshui needs extra points, he will give them. And now he wants to leave. Zhu Changshui said it's not about the glasses, he just wants to be friends, and offered to compromise. The young man thought, why him? Why can't he read his book in peace? Two men appeared and said that it was no good having two grown men talking like this. Zhou Gongshui put his hand on his interlocutor's shoulder and said that it was their business. Why is someone interfering in their conversation? Zhou Changshui winked at the girl and told her to just follow him. The girl silently agreed. The young people were still figuring out who would go where and who would be friends with whom for a while. Suddenly, one of the new arrivals said Zhu Changshui that he threw everyone out of the pagoda. Therefore, he would throw everyone out now. The young man shouted, "Attack!" and rushed straight at his opponent. Many more people appeared around the young man, ready to attack him. The young man opened his eyes and stretched. He couldn't believe that he had fallen asleep. The young man said that 10,000 people had already passed. Near the entrance to the third floor, more than 10 people attacked Zhu Changshui. As one could guess, all of these people were annihilated by our hero. The young man didn't leave a chance for anyone to escape. Everyone watching this event thought that the young man was acting very fast. The young man looked at his plaque. There was a number there, 1,489. The young man smiled. Everyone thought it was better not to deal with the young man, and after turning around, they ran in the other direction. Zhu Changshui chased after them and said he would see whose speed was faster. One of those running away said that this young man was a real monster. It's best not to deal with him. The two tried to slip through the door faster so they could slip to the third floor in time. The door to the third floor was already in front of the young men. It was located right in a huge stone that towered in the forest. Zhou Changshui shouted after them that they could leave. The young man's companion said that Brother Shishan was very awesome. How could he be so cool? Zhou Changshui once again approached the young man, took his hand and suggested that they team up. A worried disciple ran into the room to see the master. He asked what had happened. The master asked what had caused the young man such confusion. The man was completely calm and was writing something. The disciple said that something incredible had happened and suggested that the master should rather follow him. It was worthy of his attention. The man took his time and said that a life without vanity was the foundation of cultivation. Where was his disciple's haste worthy of his attention? The master decided to follow the young man, and they flew swords, cleaving the air. Both warriors arrived at the pagoda at the same time with their swords. Near the pagoda, they were not alone. A girl, one of the people present, said that Brother Preceptor was also here. Master asked Tian Yue what made everyone gather here. The girl said that this time was really something interesting and suggested everyone look at the information board. Everyone saw the information. Wang Shishan had obtained 1,489 points. This was unheard of. Tian Yue said that this young man was only on the second floor. In the past 5 years, only once had they scored more than 1,000 points at this stage. The man asked, which great master did this young man choose? The master replied that the young man had chosen Zhao Yi. Why him, the man thought. Wang Shishan was being congratulated for making it to the third floor of the pagoda. Chu Qinglan was being congratulated for passing to the third floor of the pagoda. Xiao Shizhen also passed to the third floor of the pagoda. Zhou Tian, sitting on the roof of the neighboring building, said that they had arrived late. What a bad luck. Zhou Chengshui asked his mentor brother, what are the rules of the third floor exam? The man replied, does he really look so young? The three of them met one of the elders but didn't even bow. Zhou Changshui thought that the elder in front of him was an elder of the Xuantian sect. The young man bowed to the master and said that disciple Wang Shishan was greeting the elder and wanted to know what was included in the third-floor examination. The elder looked at the young man and thought that this disciple didn't look scared at all and threw new plaques to the young men. Zhou Changshui caught his plaque and familiarized himself with the information on it. The elder announced that the young men should return with enough materials, and then they would be able to get to the fourth floor. The young man said he had pure jade and inquired what his companions had. Someone said he had an insect tooth. Someone said to gather the root of a spiritual herb. The girl noticed that everyone had different materials, but if only one thing is needed, it's not that hard. Zhou Changshui stroked the girl's head and said that she had forgotten the elder's last words. The elder said that one should bring enough materials. The materials are different, of course, but their origins are similar. Zhou Changshui notified that the purpose of this test is to find or take away the required material from other participants. The young participant found the required plant. She notified her companions about it. Suddenly, a stranger appeared and laughed. He said that he had been looking for this very thing from the beginning, and now he would get everything without much difficulty. Qiu Qingling said that she was the first to find it. The girl was startled. The stranger laughed and apologized. He said that he had been looking for this particular material from the beginning, but now he would of course leave it to the girl. Zhu Hangsui looked out of the grass and asked what was wrong. He noticed a stranger and asked who he was. The stranger bowed and introduced himself, apologized for his tactlessness. He said his name was Zhu Shanheng. Zhou Changshui asked who Zhou Baichen was to him. The young man said he was his second uncle. The young man said that he only has a small conflict with the royal house, but he is just a simple commoner. The interlocutor was surprised at the young man's tone of voice. He asked if his royal family was something to joke about. The young man was surprised. Is it impossible to talk about it in a calm tone of voice? The boy said he had other things to do. He didn't have time to talk here. He went to get the next material. Zhou Changshui thought that his cousin was stupid. The plaques given by Zhu Tianheng had information. One needed to get a red sting, a black uniform deer skin, and an amethyst longevity mushroom. Zhou Hangyue said that they would have to search for a large number of specimens. If they do it together, it would take too much time. They should split up. The girl warily asked, did the young man really want to split up? Zhou Changshui said that he would take the amethyst longevity mushroom, the skin of a black one-horned deer, and pure jade. He will go to the steep slope to find these things. The red sting and the insect bone belong to rather weak spirit animals. Shizhen should be able to handle it. Jizhen says that he will find these two things. When finished, they would meet here, but if they find out about other materials on the way, he would act according to circumstances. Zhou Changshui agreed and said that they would move out. A young man had procured these plants from the steep mountain peaks. He said that it was indeed a rare material. The others had been gathered quite quickly, and this one had taken more than 2 hours of searching. The girl turned her companion's attention to the cave. It shone with a white light. The young people followed in the direction Sinlin was pointing. Among the cliffs and rocks, this cave could be found. A pale light vaguely emanated from it. The young man picked up his companion and said that they should definitely check it out. The young men found another plant at the entrance to the cave. The young man said that it wasn't bad. Suddenly, a monster appeared from the depths of the cave. The young man immediately determined that it was a terrifying snake-tailed monkey. Zhou Chenghui said that the beast in front of them was a one-star spiritual beast with cultivation equal to the heavenly mystery realm. How could such a beast even be here? Qinglin fearfully asked, and what should they do now? The young man thought that this beast would not be easy to deal with. He decided to distract the monkey while the girl should find a way to return to the plane. Qingling took her companion's hand and asked what could happen to him. The young man said that it was a simple-minded monkey with a high cultivation level. Brother Shushan can't lose to this monkey with his IQ. The snake-tailed monkey was preparing to make an attack. The young man told the girl to get ready. The next moment, Zhu Changshui shouted to his companion to run away. He himself moved towards the monkey, wanting to distract it. The snake-tailed monkey's gaze was fixed on Zhu Changshui. Seeing that Zhu Changshui had moved from his spot, the monkey immediately bent its knees and jumped onto the same spot where the young man had just been. The young man looked at the monkey, smiled, and said that he was about to try out his perfect cultivation on it. In the pagoda, there was an announcement that Dong Heping had passed to the 3rd floor. The young man said he thought that even after sleeping soundly, he would be able to pass to the 3rd floor. But surprisingly, 100 points were not so easy to score. The scary and horrible snake-tailed monkey kept chasing our hero. It stalked and got closer and closer. Zhou Changshui continued to move quickly, but it seemed unwilling to increase the distance between them. At some point during another jump, the healthy monkey lost its balance and fell off. The young man thought that this was a great opportunity. Zhou Changshui accelerated and flew down to catch up with his pursuer. The young man in flight grabbed the monkey and told it to rest. Why travel through the air all the time? It's time to come down to the ground to rest. The young man thought that even with the current cultivation restraint, the monkey had truly tremendous perseverance. For the young man, this was the perfect opportunity to test his cultivation in action. He shouted to the monkey to give his heart. In the same second, the blue formation shrank and passed through the monkey's body. It only had time to feel the pain tearing its heart and then fell into the abyss. Zhou Changshui said, if it wasn't for her total stupidity, he wouldn't have dared to attack this animal right now. The young man descended to the bottom and walked right up to the ape that was lying down. Although this beast was of low rank, however, the beast pill would still help him with his cultivation. The young man, using his rank-appropriate abilities, tried to extract the pill from the monkey. The young man took the beast pill. He also took on the tail tip and claws. He succeeded, and he dismembered this breathless body. The lad said that the claw and tail are also great casting materials. The young man said that this cave was guarded by a spirit beast. There must be more than just an amethyst longevity mushroom here. Watching the developments in the pagoda, the green-haired elder waited for the outcome of the events. He noticed that the jade ball on his hand had turned black. This only spoke of one thing. Someone had destroyed the snake-tailed ape. Could it really be that this had happened? Zhou Changshui, being inside the cave, thought, what was guarded by the monkey must be of a spiritual level, not just some medicinal herb. The young man thought that there was something ahead. There was. There was a light up ahead. The lad walked closer and saw that there was a weeping ice willow tree in front of him. It was a valuable find. What was a tree doing in a cave? The water under the tree is not just river water. Over time, the water becomes ice. It's a very sacred tree. That's why they call it the weeping ice willow. Such a sacred tree is rarely found on Earth, but it's inside a pagoda, so it's responsible for the boundaries of one of the barriers. The young man was glad that he had thought of this on his own. The snake-tailed monkey should be one of the sect's spirit beasts and guard the boundary point. The young man was upset. He had very rashly destroyed this snake-tailed monkey. Now he must somehow get out of it. The boy thought that in any case, he was already here. Yes, and there was clearly a lot of spiritual energy here. He decided to waste no time and get busy cultivating. At this time, in the main inner hall of the Xuanzhen sect, 8 of the 12 elders had gathered. The green-haired elder said that he wanted to show the reason why they were all gathered here. The elder showed everyone a blackened jade bead. He stated that someone had destroyed the snake-tailed monkey. This is an emergency. One of the elders shouted indignantly, who did this? Whoever dared to destroy a spirit beast in the sect territory should be severely punished. The other elder expressed calmness. He said that one should not get angry before time and think about the matter at hand. In the pagoda, with the exception of their elder, the disciples there do not exceed the 4th level of the primordial existence realm. How could someone with a cultivation of the primordial existence realm destroy a spirit beast? The green-haired man said that spirit beasts, even if they possess the initial level of the heavenly mystery realm, were still difficult to deal with. The elder added, he had placed a few of those low-level ones to guard the boundaries of the barriers so that no one could interfere with the examination. The interlocutor asked, did someone with the level of the heavenly mystery realm infiltrate? After all, it was impossible. The girl elder said that the annual selection for the exam was very strict. On top of that, there was a restriction on the cultivation level of the pagoda. Other than their representatives and people with cultivation of the primordial existence realm, no one can enter. The green-haired man asked in that case, was someone with a low level really able to destroy a spirit beast? How could such a thing be possible? The elder said, it was possible that people who had suppressed their level had entered the pagoda. But even so, it was still difficult to destroy a heavenly mystery realm level spirit beast. The green-haired elder said that all of this is strange, and he has to report this to the sect head. The decision will be left to him. Zhou Hangshui thought that it was already the 10th level of the primordial existence realm. This was what he had broken through. To break through to the perfection of the primordial existence realm in such a short period of time could only be done by a genius like him. In this mortal world, no one else in this mortal world is capable of such a thing. Qiu Qinglan said that more than 8 hours had already passed. Why is Shishan still not back? The girl thought suddenly he is in great danger. she should still go down and look for him. The girl decided to put her plan into action and started to descend. She met 4 strangers. They asked her what her little sister was doing here. Did she have spiritual materials from the cliffside? The girl asked who they were. The girl, fearfully clutching the spiritual materials to her chest, asked, "What are they trying to do now?" One of the strangers said, "After all, this is the Zhuantian sect examination. What does she think they are going to do now? She should give them all the materials and tablets. After taking this, they will leave immediately." The girl resolutely said that she wouldn't give them anything, because there is something here that doesn't belong to her alone. The young men said that she seems to have a lot of materials they are interested in, so it would save them a lot of effort. The girl, stepping back, was approaching the cliff. The young men told her to calm down. They are not going to kick her out of the pagoda, so it's better to let her give it all up nicely. One of the young men rushed to the girl and told her to give it back quickly. She shouted that she wouldn't give it back and stumbled and flew down the cliff. Qiu Qingling flew down the cliff, and there was terror in her eyes. The young men looked down from above. If the girl fell, she had been thrown out of the pagoda, and she was unhurt. The strangers thought that the necessary material had fallen with the girl. They were very sorry about it. Qiu Qingling didn't fall completely. As she fell, she got caught on a tree branch and ended up hanging over the cliff. She continued to hang like this. The ground below was already vaguely visible, and if it wasn't for that tree, the girl would have been thrown out of the pagoda long ago. The girl was worried. She didn't know what to do. If Shishan's brother came back and couldn't find her, he would be very upset. The young lady didn't give up and decided to find a way to get out. She reached out and climbed up that tree. The girl thought that fortunately, she had the 2nd level of the realm of primordial existence, so it was not difficult for her to climb up. Suddenly from above, those 3 insolent men flew past the girl. They shouted something and swiftly fell down. Qiu Qingling climbed up and saw that Zhu Changshui was waiting for her there. The young man asked, what was she looking at? The girl cried and said she was afraid he had already died and would not return to her. The guy calmed the companion and said that it is impossible to die here. The loser is simply thrown out of the pagoda, and he told her to come up to him quickly. The girl asked how he was able to find her. Zhu Changshui replied that when he came back here, he saw her fall, but it was too late. The only thing left for him to do was to take revenge. The young man explained that all those people did was loot. However, that made it easier for him. Qinglin suggested that the young man should look for Shizhen. The young man supported the idea. Zhou Changwei said that he had checked the materials, even if there were some they didn't know. It should all be enough for the 3 of them to go as far as the 4th floor. Zhou Changshui told the companion that they were going back. At the agreed place, Qinglin and Zhu Changshui, who had just arrived, found Shizhen sleeping under a tree. The young men, upon seeing their companion, looked at each other and laughed. They were all together again. Zhu Changshui approached Shizhen cautiously and tried to wake him up. The young man woke up and was surprised to see his friends. He asked when did they come back. Could it be that he had slept so soundly? The young men began to check the loot. Zhu Changshui told Shizhen that this was the venue for the exam. Could it really be possible to sleep here? The young man said that he was really bored waiting for them. Qilin suggested that the spoils should be divided. Zhou Changshui looked that Xiao Shizhen had obtained very few materials. He only had 2 pieces. The young man wondered, why so few? Zhou Changshui said that he was only told about the red sting and the insect tooth. That was what he had collected. Zhou Changshui got upset and said that the person in front of him looks like a shadow puppet. The Tom is told to go down, so he goes down. The inner courtyard of the pagoda. The elder evaluated and said it was good material. If the young men scored enough points, they could go to the next floor. The young people looked at the elder and wondered, how many points are we talking about? The elder said if they had 500 points, they could go through that door over there. The young men began to add up the number of points each had on the plaque. Jizhen asked, what is this for? Zhou Changhui replied that they would be cheating now. Zhou Guangshui told his companions that he had given them 1,000 points each. Whether they could make it to the top 3 would only depend on their luck. Zhou Changshui nudged his friends forward and told them to go ahead and feel more confident. Xingling asked, what would Brother Shishan do? The young man said that he had his own plans right now. The young man walked away from the door, back to the 3rd level. He said that finishing the exam now was too wasteful. He had other plans. The rooftop elder asked if the young man would not go. The young man replied that he wasn't yet. The elder decided that this guy was very entertaining. 4th floor. Shizhen and Qinglin found themselves here. So many people have passed through here, the girl thought. These 2 who ran away so quickly also ended up here. Xinglin was worried, so why hadn't Brother Shishan shown up yet? A message appeared on the information board saying that the exam had been completed, and the ranking in terms of points had already been established. It was announced that the third-place winner was Xia Yufeng. It was said that this young man was very fierce. But why did the person who had won so many plaques only come in third place? It was announced that the second-place winner was Dong Heping. This young man was sleeping all the time. Suddenly, he got second place. It said that all his points were taken away from people who tried to sneak up on him while he was sleeping. It was announced that the first-place winner was Heng Fei. He was said to be the creepiest person. We should stay away from him. Zhou Changshui said that he had tried so hard, but he still hadn't reached the 11th level of the primordial existence realm. It seemed like only one level, but the gap was incredibly huge. The young man was standing in front of a huge magical beast. The beast was sleeping. The young man kicked it with his foot. His cultivation was only slightly increased with the beast pills he obtained after destroying the remaining 8 spirit beasts. Zhou Changshui looked at his hands and decided that it looked like the exam was complete. The guy remembered being told that without reaching the 4th floor, one could only become an outer disciple of the sect. But in reality, that meant becoming nothing more than a servant of the sect. Becoming an outer disciple of the sect without incredible success and luck, it would be almost impossible to become an inner disciple. The young man thought that all these medicinal herbs to feed the spirit beasts were completely useless. He was exiled to the medicinal field. The young man planned to use the sect to find a spirit-rich place and cultivate, spying on Lord Yu's mansion along the way. A colleague ran to our hero and asked what Shishan was doing here. The colleague was Xia Tongming. He said that everyone went to the extra missions building for errands. If they didn't go, they would be punished. The young man calls himself a member of the Great Xia family, and the one in third place is his older cousin. Although there is no connection between them, Zhu Changshui said that in that case we should hurry up, because he doesn't want to go without food. Supplemental assignment building. This is where outside students can receive assignments. Completed assignments can be exchanged for sect currency. The young man apologized and approached the elder. The one told him to watch everything on the assignment board, because he only gives out assignment of 4 stars and above. The young man thought that the sect was thriving with technological advancement. All one has to do is simply insert the board into this notch. The young man leaned his plaque in, and a message appeared on the screen saying that he had a cultivation of the 2nd level of the primordial existence realm. After registering, one must mentally select the desired task. The elder shouted for the young man not to do that here, and get out of here or else he would make him work. The young man said he was leaving in that case. Already outside, he thought that this old man had a nasty temper. The young man decided to study the information and see what jobs were available now. He familiarized himself with what degrees of difficulty the assignments had. The degree of difficulty was divided according to the number of stars. The young man studied the details of all the quests. There was to get the seeds of the heavenly leaf herb, or to get the root of ganji, or to get the medicinal material of wufen. That old man told the young man that for tasks with 4 stars and above, one had to come to the additional task building. The young man came to that old man again and said that he wanted to take the assignment. The old man asked, "Did this young man come again? Why did he come back so quickly? 5-star assignments can't just be taken. You have to leave a deposit of 5,000 coins for 5-star quests." The young man was surprised. The young man turned around and headed for the exit. He said he didn't have that much. The old man said that this was truly an impolite fellow. The old man thought, how could he want an assignment with 5 stars? Some busy boy. With the exception of 5, 6-star assignments in the 1st through 4th star sect, difficulties are basic. Everyone has to buy their own seeds with currency and then grow them, with the harvest being sold again for currency. Within the sect itself, there is a monthly harvest surrender rate. Over and above the measure can be sold outside the sect or exchanged with other disciples. But the currency of the sect only has value here. The tasks of the first 4 stars of difficulty do not require deposit, but a month's worth must be met. The colleague told Shishan that he had clearly chosen a 4-star assignment, but the medicine field is too low rank. If not done on time, there will be a penalty. A 1-star assignment brings 10 coins per month per arable land. They are only allotted 5 of those. That's barely enough for daily needs. A colleague said he thinks it's better to work gradually, so that there is still energy left for other things. Zhou Changshui said that he is too cautious, but he doesn't make mistakes. Being cautious is not a disadvantage, but being too serious is too much trouble. On the way back, Xia Tongming kept analyzing the pros and cons. Only his interlocutor was too lazy to answer him. The second day had arrived. In the medicinal field, Shishan was in charge of part of this area. It was necessary to first excavate the soil, then loosen it. After that, sow the seeds, then water it, and after that, cover it back up with soil. The young man had only planted 5 beds. The process bored him. He did not know how long he would have to wait for the harvest at this rate. He looked around and noticed that no one was around. He thought then he could use a technique. The young man applied the growth stimulation technique. After applying the proper technique, plants began to emerge from the ground much faster. The young man decided that this was much easier. The monthly income from the 4-star quest was 150 coins, but even that, it was too slow. Not counting the quest board, there's also a trading system inside. The trading system has exquisite goods that are traded between both external and internal disciples. The prices also vary greatly. 4-star assignments have fees that don't even reach 2 low-grade spirit stones per month. This is a very unacceptable rate. The young man decided to come up with another method. A Heavenly Mystery Realm Foundation Pill would allow him to break through the 10th level of the Primordial Existence Realm, plus 4 Heavenly Mystery Realm Pills, and he would reach the 11th level. The young man thought that if he had known earlier, he would have immediately gone to that girl for help. The inner sect is truly amazing. The fields here cultivate a variety of medicinal herbs. It's like heaven and earth compared to the outer sect's capabilities. The girl thought that after passing through the sect gate, she was chosen by the deputy head of the medicinal Tao sect. She was now the elder's top disciple. The girl breathed a sigh of relief after watering all the plants. All thanks to Brother Shishan. Kinglin thought that she didn't even know how the young man was doing. Isn't he being bullied in the outer sect? The young lady thought if it turned out that someone dared to bully her brother Shishan, she would immediately protect him. His work would always remain in her heart. Outer medicinal field. The young man thought that so many people would sleep in the same place. The attitude towards outer disciples, really bad. The young man lay there and couldn't sleep. Because of Shatongming's snoring, it's impossible to fall asleep even if one really wants to. Since he still couldn't sleep, the young man got up. He was curious about what happened to that girl in the intersect. The young man got up, put on his shoes, got dressed, and quietly went out. He decided to sneak into the intersect under the cover of night and find that girl. The fact that it was night and the girl was sleeping didn't bother him. With a few leaps, the young man reached his goal. The arrangement of the intersect is quite simple. These mountaintops must have 6 Dao gates. Zhou Chengshui had to answer the question of which gate that girl entered. Since he couldn't find an answer, he realized that he would have to search for the right gate, one by one. As he passed by, the young man heard speech coming from inside. Someone was thanking Uncle Juan for his help. Otherwise, she would have to reach the outer disciple of the sect. The girl said in response that such a favor, she would definitely report to her father. Uncle Huang said that he and her father were good friends, and the girl is engaged to his nephew. They're family now, so there's no need to talk like that. The nephew asked Wang Shishan and Chu Qinglin if they would be interfering. Uncle said Qingling had already bowed to the elder, and Shishan had become an outer disciple of the medicinal Tao. The young man heard that Uncle Huang said that he couldn't wait for the medicinal Tao to belong to him. The man thought he heard someone's breathing outside. He ran out the door and looked around. There was no one around. Uncle Huang saw that the surroundings were empty and thought he had imagined it. Zhou Chengshui returned to his seat and went back to bed. He now had something to think about. From what he had heard, Qinglin should belong to the medicinal Tao. In the morning, the young man decided to look for her. The 2 inner disciples had made a marriage contract from the beginning. They must have wished to become paired cultivators. The young man thought that this elder was a highly respected one. Zhou Chengshui thought that Qinglin was fine, and that was enough for him. The others didn't bother him. The young man realized that making the pill was very important. One must reach the 11th level, and then he wouldn't be inferior to the middle-level youths of the Heavenly Mystery Realm. He just had to obtain the Heavenly Mystery Realm's foundation pill. The next day came. Even though the young man used the spell technique, the harvest would be 3 times as much within a month. But it was still too slow. The young man decided that tonight, before everyone went to bed, he would sneak into the inner sect and look for Qinglin. The young man heard Zia's co-worker calling out to him. The young man shouted that the task board should be opened urgently. That's where the rewards are being handed out. Zhou Chengshui asked, "What kind of rewards are we talking about?" Xiao was breathing deeply and couldn't say a single word. After puffing out his breath, the young man replied that the sect had reported that there were 3 pairs of inner disciples who were going to hold a dual cultivation ceremony. Their families would distribute monetary gifts for the happy occasion. The young man thought that Huang Tianyi and Chu Di were also practicing double cultivation. Their speed was indeed faster than normal. Zhou Changshui was interested in the rewards and decided to see how many he could get. On the information board, there was a message that Wang Xishan had received 20 coins. Zhou Changshui was upset. He felt that it wasn't enough. This was 2 months' profit from 1-star assignments. Saya added that there were thousands of outer sect disciples here, and everyone was paid something. All in all, it's a very huge amount of money. Zhou Kongshui thought that his interlocutor was right. Although everyone gets a little bit of money, but when you add it all up, it's a huge amount. He asked when will these ceremonies take place. Shida said it would be in the middle of next month. He had heard about it from the stories of other sectarians. The young man asked Zhu Changshui, how does he grow these plants? Why do they grow so much in one day? Zhou Changshui said that he didn't understand either. He too is curious how it works out. She followed the young man. He asked to be waited for. Zhou Changshui came to his room and said goodbye. He said that he wanted to sleep. The young man thought about dual cultivation. It seems that before entering the sect, these two were already engaged. Therefore, this practice is commonplace for them. So there are many contradictions between the Tao of healing and the medicinal Tao. Otherwise, why else would they be united? The young man decided that there was an urgent need to act. The young man realized that he and Qinglin were already involved. Dual cultivation pairs should carve out name plaques. Zhou Tongwei pondered. They think that he and the girl, mere objects that are easy to get out of the way. But they will never reach the lead role. Under the cover of night, Zhu Changshui reached the arable land, crossed the bridge and entered the inner sect for the second time. This time, the young man did not go to the gate of the medicinal Tao, but instead returned to the Tao of healing. Zhou Changshui went down to the place where the voices were heard from, and he could get more information. The girl said that Chu Qinglin had already become an elder's disciple, and it wouldn't be easy to organize something against her. The young man replied that when his uncle entered the game, then it would be no more difficult to do so than just squashing an ant. The young man added that the girl's master would also take a stand. Then the head of the medicinal Tao wouldn't have time to take care of himself, let alone others. The girl asked, did the young man know that her father had given a 3rd-level gold stud to Qinglin's mother? And now the girl has that stiletto. Mother and daughter both shameless. The young man, hearing this, thought that all of this made him angry. He couldn't believe he had encountered such a thing. The young man waited for the two to fall asleep and quietly opened the door. Zhou Changshui walked into the room. He looked at the young men and thought that they were sleeping so sweetly that not even an earthquake would wake them up. Zhou Changshui decided that something should be done to them. The young man thought that he had no enemies in the sect except for this couple. The young man took their plaques. The lad changed the inscriptions on those plaques and thought the deed was done. There were too many guards on the streets, so he decided to be careful not to attract attention. So he went to look for Chu Qinglin. The young man decided that the best thing for him to do right now would be to hide behind the rocks. The young man thought he saw a black figure just now. Could it really be Xiao Shizhen? The young man approached Shizhen from behind and asked, what was he doing here? Zhou Kangshui asked, did Xiao Shizhen decide to betray his master? The guards heard voices in the night and decided to check who was there. The guards approached the rocks and saw that there was no one there. The young men had managed to hide. Shizhen asked for Zhu Changshui to let him go. The young man thought he heard laughter somewhere. Zhou Changshui asked why he was sneaking around. He thought someone was trying to infiltrate Qingling. Zhou Changshui asked again, what is Shizhen doing here in the middle of the night, and even dressed like that? It's not like it's a disciple's uniform. Shizhen said that he was saving his life. There was nothing else for him to do. Zhou Changshui followed after Shizhen and asked what was wrong. Who was he saving himself from? The young man said that he was hiding from his master. Shizhen added that his master, the 3rd floor watcher. The young man remembered which master he was talking about. It was the elder who met them while sitting on the roof. Zhou Changshui asked why did Shizhen run away from him? Shizhen said it's a very long explanation. Master said that Shizhen was very weak and wanted to train him. The master gave him pills every day as well as other strange things. The young man added that the master also made him take medicinal baths in front of him for 6 hours. Shizhen added that the master also constantly touched his back, and his touch responded with tremendous pain. Zhou Changshui said that his interlocutor had become stronger, and it was noticeable. He had probably reached the 5th level in just a few days. Shizhen replied that it wasn't worth it. He is suffering a lot. Zhou Changshui noticed that it appeared that his master had put in a lot of effort for the sake of achieving this success. Could it be that Shizhen is so ungrateful? After all, he came to the sect to become stronger. His cultivation had already increased a lot in the past few days. Shijin replied that he didn't like it. He wanted to learn by reading. The young men stopped on the lawn and sat down. Zhou Chengshui asked, was that why his companion decided to run away? Zhou Chengshui added that the entire academy was surrounded by a protective field. There was no way to get through it that easily. Shijin replied that he had no intention of leaving. On the contrary, he was looking for his interlocutor. And better yet, he'd rather be in his company. Zhou Chengshui replied, does Shijin realize where he has been put? Where he sleeps, there are 10 people in one room. Shijin said that it doesn't matter to him. He just needs to find a place away from here, where he can read in peace. Anything will do. Zhou Chengshui asked why he should help Shijin. The young man was surprised. Hadn't he offered him friendship? The young men noticed that there were a lot of guards. They didn't understand how they could pass unnoticed. Zhou Chengshui remarked that they should keep a low profile to begin with. Zhou Chengshui explained that if one were to pass by them unnoticed, one must hide one's breath. The young man said that he had a spell that would help them with this. After applying the spell, Zhou Chengshui took his friend under his arm and said that they could go. After the danger passed, Shijin felt sick. The young man vomited. Shijin asked his friend, could he also teleport? Zhou Chengshui replied that he just knew how to move quickly. Shijin was amazed by what he saw. Could it really be his companion's beds? Zhou Chengshui asked, what was wrong with these beds? Shijin said that he had a request. After a while, Zhou Chengshui asked in surprise, why did the young man need to dig this hole? Shijin said, this is not a bad place. The grass was tall and no one would notice him. If he set up here, Shijin asked his companion to find him a blanket, and then he would stay here. Zhou Chengshui wondered if the young man should just be buried in the ground. A few days passed. Zhou Chengshui asked Tumen if there was any news from the academy. The young man thought it was best not to talk about Suyan's release and about the death of the guardian beast in the tower. The relationship between Han Tianlin and Ne Tianjia should cause a lot of trouble for the academy. The green-haired elder pondered, why isn't anything happening? Inside the gate, chaos had formed recently. There was a knock on the door. The elder asked who was there. A colleague appeared on the doorstep. He asked if the young man still hadn't found the one who had caused them trouble. The green-haired man replied that he didn't know how to find him. That person had simply destroyed the guardian beast without breaking the barrier, also leaving absolutely no trace behind. A co-worker asked if he had used the spirit butterfly. Did it help him? The green-haired man said that not even a trace of his breath could be found. How could a butterfly help here? The elder asked his colleague, what was he even doing here at a time like this? He shouldn't even think of disturbing his students. Let him go back to his place and torture his own. The colleague asked the green-haired elder if he could borrow his spirit butterfly. The green-haired man asked why he needed it. The elder said that his new student had run off somewhere, and he didn't understand how to look for him. The interlocutor asked how many disciples had already escaped from him. Elder Zhou replied, it's all because they haven't learned to accept his friendship yet. They would have been able to understand him long ago if they treated him differently. The green-haired man said he would give him the butterfly. If he stayed here even a minute longer, he would be very angry. The elder thought that there were still 2 whole days until the pear cultivation ceremony. That's a very long time. The elder told his dear disciple that his master's attention was not at all at the top of the list for him, and released a butterfly. The butterfly flew out through the window, and the elder thought, no matter what, the disciple won't be able to escape from him. Several days passed. The sex-paired cultivation ceremony was about to begin. The sect head, Xuantian, declared the paired cultivation ceremony open. Zhou Chengshui was off to the side somewhere near the forest. He thought that it was so noisy that he could hear the drumming from here. Zhou Chengshui asked if Shijin wanted to go there and have some fun. The interlocutor said that it was just an ordinary ceremony. There was nothing fun about it. Zhou Chengshui asked, what if something interesting happens? And then Shijin will miss everything if he doesn't go there now. Shijin said he's not interested. Zhou Chengshui replied, fine, let him sit with his book, and he will go and take a walk. The elder's butterfly was already flying somewhere nearby. The young man saw the butterfly but didn't pay much attention to it. Are there not many butterflies that could fly around here? The inner part of the sect, the disciples' rest. The young man changed into the clothes of the inner sect disciples. The difference in the quality of the clothes was astonishing to the young man. Now everything was ready and Zhou Chengshui was going to watch the ceremony. The elder said that he had been given the great honor of being the priest for this ceremony. He offered to bless the 3 couples and congratulate them on their happy marriage. The man added that he sincerely believed that together they would work well for the good of the sect and would only make it stronger. The crowd around cheered. The pair of young men gazed lovingly into each other's eyes. They had gathered here for the establishment of a pair cultivation alliance. The elder congratulated the young people and said that they had all witnessed this union. The next couple was congratulated in the same scenario. The elder said that he congratulated the newlyweds and wished them the same. The elder said that he would now announce the last couple and took their plaques in his hands. A look of surprise appeared in the man's eyes. The man read the girl's name and fell silent. The surprise grew. Everyone in the neighborhood thought, "What's wrong?" The groom became very tense. Those watching thought, "Why did the elder become silent? What's happening to him?" The elder threw the sign away in anger. He shouted, "Who dared to do that?" There was an inscription on the plaque, Huang Tianlin. The sect master was very upset. The old man whispered something in his ear. The sect mistress announced that the pear cultivation ceremony was suspended. There was a glitch due to technical reasons. All previous arrangements remain in effect. Everyone around them didn't understand why the headmaster and all the masters were leaving. What was really going on? No one could understand what had happened. Zhou Changshui thought that he didn't care about what would now happen between the heads of the different schools. Zhou Changhui said that, from the looks of it, old man Huang wouldn't be returning to the School of Medicine anymore. We should put more oil on the fire. School of Medicine, main office. The young man thought, if this is a medical school, there must be a lot of magic pills here. They must be hidden in a secret vault. The young man searched the whole room. He didn't find the pills or the secret vault. The young man thought that old Juan could not be that poor. He doesn't have any safes or anything valuable to embezzle. Zhou Changshui was upset, and he didn't understand why the curtain was closed in broad daylight. The young man pulled the curtain apart and noticed a secret room. Someone asked him who he was. The young man apologized and said he was just a new student. He didn't want to disturb anyone's peace. The young boy heard someone asking him to get under the bed and help him. The boy found a doll sitting on the bed. The young man heard a voice telling him to look under the bed. Zhu Changshui squatted down and thought that he didn't know how to get under the bed. The young man thought that matters here should be handled differently. There must be a defense laid somewhere in here. The young man broke the defense and pushed the bed aside. Underneath the bed was a secret passage. Zhou Changshui was not confused and decided that he should go down and look around below. Who would have thought that such a huge place would be under a small bedroom? The young man followed further down and saw a girl chained up. Chains and rune magic restrained her. She was being held here as if she was in a prison. Zhou Hangshui inquired, wasn't she the one who spoke to him? The girl said that the young man was very guessing, and it was indeed her. The young man inquired what her name was. The girl replied that her name was Tun Chai. The young man asked another clarifying question. Who was she? Tun Chai. Shijin, reading a book while lying in his hole, asked, did Zhu Changshui come back yet? The young man saw his teacher standing in front of him. The young man pumped loudly in fear. The teacher said if the young man was done playing hide and seek, he could pack up and follow him. A traitorous butterfly flew nearby. The girl, crucified on chains, told the young man to drip blood on her chest and added that she had a talisman on her chest. Zhou Changshui thought he could settle the matter differently, so he performed his magical manipulations on the girl. The girl was released. The young man said he had one question. Is she married by any chance? The girl said that the young man was cheeky. Zhu Changshui replied that you can't judge a book by its cover. Good wine is served in a good bowl, and a good sauce contains onions in it. But just because you don't see onions in the sauce doesn't mean they aren't there. He could go on like this ad infinitum. The young man turned around and said that in that case he was leaving. He had done all he could for the girl. Let her deal with the rest on her own. The girl thought about it and told the young man to wait. The girl said if the young man would help her a little more, she would give him something. The boy thought this looked intriguing. The freed captive said she would tell him where the magic pills were hidden and how to get there. But she only needs one of them. The rest, he can have the rest for himself. Zhou Kangsui asked the girl if among those pills was the celestial pill. The girl replied, if Huang Tianlin didn't take it away, then there must be such a pill there. Zhou Changshui looked at this girl and couldn't understand what her cultivation level was. But if Huang was able to seal her strength with such a weak spell, then her level, half of Huang's level at best. Even if he helped her replenish her strength, it wouldn't be difficult to defend against such a low-leveled person in case of anything. Zhou Changshui said that he agreed to help the girl. The elder was incredibly angry. He couldn't understand who dared to cause such a scandal in the sect. Furthermore, setting him up so badly. The man said that he would definitely find that person, no matter who he was, destroy and tear him to shreds. Zhou Changshui walked over to the medical storage room and his eyes lit up. He was ecstatic. The young man thought that a large number of pills could be stored here. The girl told the young man that he could open the door with her jade tablet. The lad tried this and leaned the tablet against the door. The tablet worked, and the young man managed to swing the door open. But he thought it lived up to his expectations. All these pills could be worth over 120,000 points. Zhou Gongshui looked at the contents of the shelves and felt a little frustrated. Why were they all of such terrible quality? The young man proceeded into the depths of the storage room. He saw that there was another door. The second vault had better contents. There were soul-dispelling pills, golden leaf pills, and mangunhi herb powders. There were also various essences here. The guy thought that all of these pills were at least third rank. There were even some heavenly pills here. Zhou Changwei couldn't believe his happiness. Would he really be a rich man now? Everything he could carry with him. Zhou Changshui piled it all into one pile and stuffed it into his sack. He thought it was an amazing catch. The young man thought that he really hadn't found the pill that Tong Chai needed, nor the celestial pill. So he should look in the third vault. The pill seeker went to the door with a sign above it saying that it was the entrance to the third vault. As he entered the third vault, he realized it wasn't that simple. There was a defense here. It was only activated when he entered this room. Everyone outside sensed something was going on, but they couldn't figure out what it was. The elder was the first to realize that the problem was at the entrance to the vault. The guards must have been triggered. The elder decided to test his hunch. Zhou Tangsui was in the third vault and thought that he had been so focused on stealing pills that he had completely forgotten about the possible traps. The young man decided not to waste any time and carry away as many pills as he could take. The elder entered the vault. He saw the emptied shelves and shouted, "Who dared to do this?" The man used his unique abilities and determined that, judging from the breath marks left in the vault, it was the work of the same person who had ruined the jade tablets. The elder said that this rascal should pray that he wouldn't find him. Otherwise, he would immediately become a dead man. In front of the girl trapped under the bed, Zhu Changshui appeared again. This time, he was carrying a bag that contained many pills. The girl asked if he had brought what he was supposed to. The guy replied that he had risked his life to come back here, and she was only interested in the medicine. The guy opened the sack and looked for the pill he needed. He told the girl if she didn't like him, she could say so, and he would get off her back for good. The young man pulled a vial out of the bag and said, "This is just the potion she was talking about." The young man walked over to the girl and told her to open her mouth. He was going to pour the potion into her. While the girl was at a loss, the young man carried out his plan. The mixture had the desired effect, and Tun Chai became completely free. The girl stood up and walked over to the young man. She put her hands on his shoulders and said that she certainly owed him for saving her life, but he had managed to inflict many insults in the short time they had known each other. Tun Chai grabbed the young man by the neck and said that she intended to teach him a lesson. A heartbreaking spell was applied to the young man. The young man asked why she was being so cruel to him. She had already rejected him. Why go to such lengths? Zhou Changsui grabbed the other person's hand and pressed it against her and kissed her on the lips. After that, the young man asked how she felt now. Wasn't his kissing spell sweeter than her heartbreaking spell? Tun Chai pushed the young man away and stepped aside herself. The young man thought that it wasn't so bad after all. The girl was terribly angry. She said the young man could get ready because she was about to destroy him. Suddenly, the girl began to undergo some kind of transformation. A strange kind of incomprehensible energy formed around her. Tong Chai screamed and fell to the ground. Zhou Changsui fortunately thought that the medicine had worked after all. The young man walked over to the girl and squatted down beside her. He noticed that her levels were high after all. The guy thought he was lucky. She had not had time to fully recover her strength, otherwise he would have died already. The young man left some potions on the senseless girl, turned around and walked away. Zhou Changshui walked towards the medicine field. He felt 2 breaths. The grass pit where Shijin should be was empty. The young man thought that his friend seems to have hid badly after all. Zhou Changshui went back to his resting room, the place where he usually sleeps. He thought that he had carelessly left traces of his presence in the vault. He might be discovered soon. He didn't think he could stay safe here. The boy thought that all he needed to do now was to bring his powers up to level 11, which would mean he would be able to defend himself against the masters. The negotiation room of the Xuantian Sex Masters. There are 6 masters out of 12 present in the negotiation room. The sect head is also here. The green-haired elder said, "Is it possible that the person who altered the jade tablets of the paired cultivation ceremony and stole the pills and the one who destroyed the sacred beasts are the same person?" Elder said he discovered that it was the same odor. It's a strong clue and physical evidence. This odor is exactly the same as on the corpses of the beasts. One of the elders said that it seems to be true. So this person pretended to be a disciple to sneak into the sect. Another elder remarked, if he passed the exam, they should have information about him saved. The girl asked for Master Joe to verify this information. The elder noticed that this odor came from one person when he first met him. Could it be that it could be Heng Fei? The opponent replied that it was impossible, because that guy is always focused only on his training. After one of the masters chose him as his disciple, he asked to go to the bone cave, but he never came back. The elder said that he had sensed something similar from Master Zhang's disciple, Chu Qingling. Master Zhang said that she felt the same way, but she wasn't sure. Elder said that he understood everything. There is only one person left as a suspect. It's Wang Xishan. Zhou Changshui walked out of the cave stretching. The young man thought that the 11th level had been reached. Now, he would be able to fight against mid-level masters. The young man was walking through the forest. He saw a group of sect disciples standing to the side. Zhou Changshui immediately hid behind a tree before they noticed him. He thought that they appeared to be very fast. It seemed to him that he wouldn't be able to return to the medicinal fields. Everyone would be looking for him by now. But with his current strength, he wouldn't be able to open the gate, so that left him with only one place he could go. Zhou Changshui decided that he had to rescue Xiao Shizhen's brother, Xiao Shizhen. Unexpectedly, the young man heard someone tell him that it was good that he had been found. Zhou Changshui walked out onto the lawn. There were 3 people in front of him. One of them said that it had been a very long time since they had seen each other last time. The man said that this young man had caused him a lot of trouble with his strands. Zhou Changshui said that he recognized him too, an old acquaintance of his. The young man showed the young man the receipt and said that he had to pay 1 gold stone and 7,800 Chuigi stocks. Zhou Changshui was very surprised. Wasn't it only about 100 plants? Why so many? The interlocutor said that 100 plants, that's 100 plants, that's no percent. Plus, he had applied a discount. And instead of thanking him, the young man is asking him such questions? The loan shark approached Zhou Changshui. He took him by the shoulders. He said the young man owed him a debt. Zhou Changshui said he had a counteroffer. How about 150 low-grade spirit stones? The interlocutor shouted that his opponent still wanted to cheat him. Zhou Changshui said that he wanted to think about it and started rummaging through his bag. The young man took out a vial from his bag and said that this treasure had been passed down in his family for generations. It should pay off all the debt. The interlocutor snatched the vial and thought to himself, this is the Tianshuan Z potion. This bottle is worth at least 200 spirit stones. The usurer asked if his interlocutor had any more potions like this. The young man pronounced that he was quite an important person in the outer parts of the sect. If Zhou Changshui wanted to sell such a potion, he would not offend him with the price. The moneylender offered the young man's cooperation. Zhou Changshui said that he really had more to offer, and thought to himself that if his interlocutor wanted to deceive someone, at least hide his foxtail. Zhou Changshui added that all his brothers and sisters in medical school know that he has the best pills, and they also know that he keeps his eyes open at night in fear that someone will try to steal them. The moneylender offered the young man to stay with them for a few days. And don't worry, he won't lose anything. If the young man exchanges all these medicines for a huge amount of money, he will no longer have to fear for someone stealing them. Zhou Changshui said he agreed, and they struck hands. The moneylender said that he was ready to treat the young man to a very tasty meal. The cunning businessman was pleased. He thought he had lured the poor sheep into the lion's den. Zhou Changshui thought that in this sect, the difference between the rich and the poor is very noticeable. The moneylender told the young man not to be shy, to come in and have a seat. Zhou Changshui noted that the interior inside this room looked very rich. Zhou Changshui thought that this was all for a reason. The young men were left alone in the confined space. All 3 of them looked at Zhou Changshui threateningly. The loan shark told the young man to give all his medicines to his older brother, and he would absolutely honestly sell them for him at a very favorable price. Zhou Changshui asked if his interlocutor was sure of what he was promising. The young man said that he had no time to joke with Zhou Changshui. He must give up his medicine or they would consider him their enemy. Outside, someone knocked on the door. The voice outside said that it was Jiage, and he wants to warn that something happened outside the gate. Shaga entered the room and said that a new disciple from outside the gate had broken into the medical school's vault. The roaster asked, is an outer gate disciple really capable of going inside and emptying the vault? After all, it's not realistic. Shaga said that it was true. They had already announced that they were preparing to arrest that disciple. I think his name is Wang Shishan. The young man thought for a moment. He thought that he seemed to have heard the name somewhere before. Zhou Chengshui stated that the conversation was about him now. Everyone looked at each other. The moneylender took the pill bag from Zhu Chengshui and wanted to see what was new. Zhu Chengshui sat quietly and waited for the results of the inspection. The loan shark sent the boss the latest news. The entire sect territory is under lockdown. The inner gate had sent hundreds of their disciples to the outer gate to investigate. There's no way into his armory now, and he can't get that flying sword the boss wants. An older brother from the teacher's school who recently joined them before they left said he was going to find out who Wang Shishan is. We have to be careful. He hid everything in his place for now. Zhou Chengshui told his interlocutor that they had better think about what they would say if someone came here. The moneylender said that Wang Shishan could feel completely safe here. This is his secret suite. They even have a Kui blocking function. There was also information that Master Zhan's disciple, a girl whose name is Ku Qingling, was arrested by the inner gate people for knowing Wang Shishan. The moneylender asked the young man how close he was to Ku Qingling. Zhou Chengshui stood up from his seat and menacingly asked what the interlocutor was going to do with that girl. Zhou Chengshui left the room and went to the forest. In the forest, he hid behind a tree so that he wouldn't be discovered. The young man thought that as long as none of the masters were around, it shouldn't be a problem to penetrate the inner gate. But first, he needed to find out where Qinglin was being held. He found it strange that the girl was captured while Xiao Shigren was untouched. Zhou Chengshui decided that he had no choice but to infiltrate the inner gate again. After a long search, Zhou Chengshui still managed to find Shizhen. The young man was taking a bath. Zhou Chengshui said that he now understood Shizhen's desire to escape. This must be some special kind of torture? There was an incredible fragrance coming from the bathtub. Shizhen saw his friend and rushed over to him with a hug. He said he was very happy to see Brother Shishan. Shizhen said that the brother should save him. Zhou Chengshui said that this liquid is so precious that many people would give a lot of money to get it, and Shizhen is trying to escape. Zhou Chengshui asked his interlocutor, can't he feel how much his strength has increased? Shizhen asked in what way. Would a high level of cultivation increase his knowledge? Shizhen added that he didn't care. If Zhou Chengshui was able to sneak in here, then no one from the guards outside. He would quickly get dressed now and they would leave here together. The young man quickly got dressed and said that he was ready to leave. Suddenly a voice sounded. An elder appeared and asked where his favorite disciple was going. The elder added that little Wang Shishan was also here. Master said that there was a lot more power in this water. Why did his disciple leave the bathroom? Shizhen asked his friend, what should they do now? The master said for the young man not to look at him like that. He won't tell anyone about the fact that he ended up here. The elder added, although Shishan's friend is under arrest, no one will harm her in Master Zhan's presence. Zhou Chengshui asked, what did the elder want with him? The elder distractedly looked out the window and said that the weather today is marvelous. They probably won't catch such beauty soon. The elder added that half a year ago, Master On, the head of the Wisdom Gate, had predicted that in the coming days to today's date, the entire sect would experience an imminent disaster. Due to the fact that the Zhuantian sect has encountered many problems, no one knows about it apart from the sect head and a few masters. Zhou Chengshui asked why, in that case, is the elder telling them about this. The elder replied that there was some factor that could give the sect a chance to survive this disaster. Originally, they had no idea what that factor might be. Master continued. But then the young man had slaughtered the 9 sacred beasts in the tower. Then Elder An told them that there was still hope, and that this very hope was Wang Yishan. Tun Chai was in the dungeon under her bed meditating. She emptied all the vials of mixtures that Zhu Chengshui had left behind. The young lady noted that her strength had now increased significantly. She was only 1 step away from reaching the realm of the Celestials. The young lady thought if it wasn't for that old man, she wouldn't have lost so much time. The beauty realized that soon that old man would come here again. Therefore, it was time for her to leave this place. Zhou Chengshui replied to the elder that he was only a disciple of the outer gate. How could he be the hope of the entire Zhuantian sect? The young man thought that even if the entire sect was destroyed, he would have nothing to do with it. He does not wish to get involved in their problems. The elder asked, so the young man was able to make a breakthrough through the realm of primordial existence? Zhu Chengshui asked, how does the master know this? The elder said that the realm of primordial existence is divided into 9 levels, and after the 9th, a young man would be able to break through to the realm of heavenly mysteries. But in reality, the realm of primordial existence is divided into 12 levels. Only those who were able to reach the 12th level could be called masters of the realm of primordial existence. The elder regretfully said that he still couldn't figure out what level Wang Shishan was currently at. The master added that he would allow himself to find out the level the young man was at right now. Master adopted a fighting stance and prepared to attack. Zhou Chengshui realized that he had to respond, and there was a clash between the student and the master. The young man skillfully repelled the elder's attacks. Zhou Hongshui said, even though he was still in the realm of primordial existence, he was able to withstand the opponent who was in the realm of heavenly mysteries. The elder after that trial said, it seems to him that the young man is indeed their hope. The elder then approached Shijin after that and said, he is trying hard to make the young man's strength increase and his chances of survival increase. The elder said that he would prepare such a liquid for Zhu Chengshui as well. He really hopes that the young man will be able to make a breakthrough to the realm of heavenly mysteries before the disaster. Zhou Chengshui told Shijin he feels that his master's methods are too slow to work and asked if the young man would like to help him. 2 weeks passed. The secret residence of the moneylender Yahello. Zhou Chengshui entered the residence and asked how his brother was doing. He reported that he had returned. Yahello said that he was very happy that his brother had returned and motioned for the young man to take a seat next to him. Zhou Chengshui asked his interlocutor how was the progress of the technique he had taught him. Yahello said that it was amazing. The young man replied that because of this technique, he was now at the 5th level of the primordial existence realm and thanked brother Wang Shishan. Shishan said that it was good. It's just that he happened to look at the list of goods here and saw a couple new items. Yahello huffed and asked what the young man was interested in. Shishan pointed his finger at the signs that had information about the things he was interested in. Yahello said that he understood and added for the young man not to thank him. Zhou Chengshui said that he had to go now and added that they would meet the next time already. Yahello was upset when he heard that the young man could still come back. Zhou Chengshui thought that thanks to Yahello, Master Zhou, he was now at the 11th level. He is just one step away from the final point of the realm of primordial existence and would become the first of the disciples to reach the heavenly mystery realm. If, of course, he could survive the impending disaster. Zhou Chengshui turned around and ran back. He decided to check to see how Xiao Shizhen was doing. Zhou Tianhei's residence. The young man walked in and said that he was back again. Xiao Shizhen was overjoyed. Shizhen said that he had reached the 9th level of the primordial existence realm, and it feels great. The young man added that once he reaches the heavenly mystery realm, he can study hard and not wash himself in strange liquids every day. Zhou Chengshui said that he and Master Zhou had decided to slow down the young man's cultivation development a bit, so that he could train in the realm of primordial existence. Shizhen said that the two of them were just mocking him. Zhou Chengshui meditated and cultivated. He had already reached the 12th level of the realm of primordial existence. The young man thought that it was time to look for opportunities to pass the examination to enter the realm of heavenly mysteries. Zhou Chengshui came to Master Zhou's residence again. Once again, he saw Shizhen taking a scented bath. Shizhen said that he had already reached the 10th level of the realm of primordial existence and knows that this is not the limit, and asked that the young man tell him how he can speed up his cultivation. He can't stand these baths anymore. The interlocutor said that he would tell him when he reached the 12th level. Elder Zhou appeared on the doorstep. The young men said, finally he has returned. The elder said that the young man should immediately rescue Chu Qingling, because he himself can't interfere in this matter. The medical school had started to act. The young man thought, it seems that Huang Tianlin and Xu Di are tired of acting covertly. They are losing patience. The medicinal school will be under attack. Even Zhang Tianyue wouldn't be able to protect Chu Qingling. Zhou Rangwei thanked Elder Zhou for telling him this, and added that he would go to take action. Shizhen wanted to go with him. The master stated that the young man needed to keep practicing. Elder Zhou thought a disaster was coming. The young man looked out and said, he noticed that a great many guards had appeared. The guards proceeded towards the residence. They behaved secretively and suspiciously. Zhou Chengshui continued to watch the people in cloaks. It seemed to the guy that these people weren't high level enough to go there. Suddenly, the suspicious people disappeared. The house in front of the young man became like a blur. Suspicion crept into the young man's head. It can't be, he thought. After all, it was the protective field that had been triggered. There could be no doubt. Zhou Chengshui assumed that it was a foreign invasion. This seemed quite interesting to him. Zhou Chengshui proceeded further and stealthily made his way inside the building. Inside this building were rooms behind bars, practically a prison. The young man saw the wanted girl. The young man got inside behind the bars and sat down beside Qingling. He said, she's doing well here. The girl tearfully threw herself on the young man's chest. She was crying loudly. The young man said nothing bad happened and she was in tears. Qingling was very happy that brother Shishan had found her. She had dreamed about it for so long. The girl asked, why is brother Shishan being looked for by everyone? Had he gotten into some kind of trouble? Brother Shishan said that nothing had happened. He just got a little rowdy. But that shouldn't be a big problem. The young man's nose became like Pinocchio's. The young man said, he doesn't understand why all these old men are freaking out. Zhou Chengshui took some food from the bowl and asked, does the girl really eat this? It seems like her master doesn't really care about her. After all, this food is disgusting. Qinling said that her master hasn't visited for 3 days. This is not humane. Zhu Kongsui said that they can't waste a minute and added for the girl to follow him. The young man led the girl out of the confinement and brought her to Elder Zhou's residence. Shizhen was still taking baths. Shizhen asked what was going on. Zhou Chengsui said that Shizhen should look after her. He himself would take care of more important things. The young man stepped outside the area and followed into the forest. He was interested in the defense field. He didn't realize that the defense field could only protect the inner gates, but those in the non-gates they had completely forgotten. Suddenly in the forest, Zhu Chengshui saw the shadow of a stranger. He looked very suspicious. The young man bravely walked to the middle of the lawn and said, it seems to him that Mr. First Place in all tests doesn't know manners. The mysterious Mr. in the dark cloak stared intently at the unwelcome interlocutor. The young man determined that he had the 8th level of the primordial existence realm. He was 1 cultivation level higher than Meng Nianqing. The stranger asked if the guy in front of him was the guy who stole the pills. Zhu Chengshui inquired, was the person in front of him one of Huang Tianlin's men? The hooded man said that he wasn't going to answer the young man's questions. He is here to take the one with him. A strange blue flame appeared in the stranger's palm. The hooded man tried to attack our hero. Zhu Chengshui repelled this attack and deactivated his opponent's actions. The young man responded by attacking the hooded man. The man wondered, what kind of attack was this? Blood came out of his mouth and he lost consciousness. Zhu Chengshui picked up the stranger in his arms and decided to carry him to another place. Shizhen shouted that everything was lost now. The girl shouldn't have seen him while he was in the bathroom. He didn't know how he should go on with his life. Wang Shishan appeared in front of the young men. He was holding the emotionless body of a stranger in a black cloak in his arms. Shizhen asked what happened to his friend. Why did he bring him to him unknowingly? Did he have no respect for him at all? Zhou Chengshui asked why Shizhen was talking about an obscure maiden. Did he advise the young man to take a bath without closing the doors? Shizhen said, apologizing that he didn't mean that, and he doesn't want to voluntarily take those baths. Zhou Chengshui said that half of his body was underwater anyway. It's unclear why he's so nervous about this. Shizhen asked, who is in Shishen's arms this time? The young man replied, it's the one who ranked first when entering the sect. Everyone present realized that the person in question was Heng Fei. They say that this guy was elected to the inner gate, and then he went to the bone cave to train. So it's time to clear something up with him. Zhou Chengshui slapped the cloaked man's cheek and told him to come to his senses. He has some questions to answer. Heng Fei came to his senses and asked what was done to him. And where is he now? Zhou Chengshui said that the opponent may not even try to use his strength. Otherwise, his bones would start to break and he would eventually die. The young man added that his opponent should not stare at him so viciously. Otherwise, he would regret it. Heng Fei was scared. What are they going to do to him? Zhou Chengshui replied that he didn't have to fear for his life. Zhou Chengshui said that he would only ask 3 questions. And if Heng Fei answered as he should, he would be released. However, if the young man answers even 1 question incorrectly, they will have to extract his soul, put it in a small container with a soul-eating worm, and throw it out where no creature will find it. Zhou Chengshui added that Heng Fei would only be reborn after 10,000 years. Zhou Chengshui said, now he knows who is behind all this. Shizhen asked, is it true that his master was locked up by that old man, Huang Tianlin? Zhou Chengshui said, all the facts say so, but Heng Fei doesn't know where he is being held. The young man added, he didn't think they would be able to take control of most of the sect masters. Xiao Zizhen asked, so what should they do now? Zhou Kongshui suggested that they should just stay here. It wouldn't affect them in any way. Shizhen said that he agreed. Ka Qinglin asked, what do they mean? As sect disciples, aren't they obligated to help their masters if they are in trouble? Shizhen said for her not to worry. His master would get out of any situation. Zhou Chengshui remarked that he was indifferent to the fate of this sect at all, but for the sake of his friends, he might go and see what's going on there. The young man added that he wasn't sure if he could save the master, so he can't be counted on much. Zhou Changshui went to fulfill his promise. The young men followed him. The boys said they wouldn't just catch him. In the end, Zhu Changshui told his friends to wait for him and ran off in that direction very quickly. Shijin told the girl that she could make herself at home. He himself decided to take a nap. Suddenly, Master Zhou appeared. He asked Shijin why he had spoken so badly of him. Shijin told the master that he was wrong and apologized. The elder motioned for the young men to go inside. He said he had a story to tell. The girl said that Shishan's brother had left. The elder replied that the young man would not be lost. He asked if the girl liked him. Master Zhou asked Hung Fei, could he answer him a few questions? The young man looked out from behind the rock again. He thought that he had already reached the 12th level of the primordial existence realm, so even if he crossed paths with someone a level higher, he had a good chance of escaping. But something he was still wary of. The young man thought that if a true spirit realm master was on the other side, he would be in big trouble. The young man thought that now was the right time to create a spiritual shadow. A spiritual shadow didn't actually belong to the spirit spell class. He can't use his powers in this form, but it's an ideal technique for scouting. True, the spell doesn't last long. The young man thought that he only had half an hour to at least reach the place where they were keeping the master. In the secret room, the necessary ritual was taking place. The man said that here and now he was proclaiming him as the new head of the Zhuantian sect. The young man said that he was obligated to accept the position of the head of the spiritual school. The boy said that the pearl sword should belong to him. The man remarked that it was a magical weapon, one of those belonging to the defenders of the mountain barrier. If it were to be given away, what would happen to the mountain squad? The young man noticed that the elder had also been spying on the mountain squad for a long time. The man said if they ceded the position to him, he would be able to share the artifacts of the mountain barrier protector squad with everyone. He was sure that during the sect's cataclysm, this squad wouldn't be of much use anyway. After this question, what matters did they have left to discuss? One of the young men remained silent and watched what was going on. He was not listening to everyone attentively. Zhou Changshui overheard this conversation and thought that Huang Tianlin and the other masters were plotting all of this. Could this really be a conspiracy? The guy thought that there was some sort of disagreement within the sect. Now it's all turning into a rebellion. Not only against the medical school, but also against the spiritual school. The young man guessed which schools the remaining two masters belonged to. Having received the necessary information, Zhu Changshui decided to act and went on to implement his plan. At this stage, the young man was interested in where Zhang Tianyue was being held. The young man scanned the wall that was nearby with his keen eyes and realized that there was something behind it. Zhou Changshui, using his 12th level magic ability, peered through this wall. He was astonished by what he saw. The guy thought it was an interesting spell. It was a good thing that his spiritual shadow technique didn't belong to the spiritual spell class. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to sneak in here. The young man followed further and saw that the deputy sect head Master Jean was in front of him. The girl was in confinement. The young man bowed and said that he was Wang Shishan, Qinglin's close friend. He only came here with good intentions. Master John said, "So that's what he is, Wang Shishan." She had finally seen him. Master John added that the young man should leave here immediately. He shouldn't stay here. Wang Shishan said, "He is here to save Master." He came with that very mission in mind. Master John said that the heads of the medical and weapons schools, as well as the masters of the Dao Art School, have all been caught. They are being held in different places. Master added that the young man should go to the Zhu family in the Imperial City and find Zhu Tianxie, the deputy head of the Dao Art School there. He should find a way to get out of there and tell them about what's going on here. He would definitely come to their rescue. The young man wondered, is the Zhu family really in the Imperial City? Master John said, she hoped the young man would find a way to get out of here. The young man found himself outside the outskirts of the settlement, while still covered in earth. The boy said that he would like to go to the Zhu family himself. The young man regretted that he could not get out of here. Suddenly, in the sky above the sect, the young man saw a huge monster. The boy tried to follow it. Who could it be? Master Zhou asked if Liu Tianming, the deputy head of the spiritual school, had decided to betray the sect. We'll have to get rid of him. Tianming said that he is only the deputy head. If he stays in this position, he will never be able to seize control of the sect. Also, he won't be able to obtain the Pearl Sword. The man added that he could sense the true spirit realm energy in his interlocutor, but he was still only a step away from breaking through. He laughed and decided to spiritually attack Elder Zhou. Elder Zhou was injured and began to bleed. He lowered his head. Zhijin and Qingling cried out in fear. Standing on the roof of a neighboring house, Zhu Changshui was watching this scene. He saw the deputy head disappear. Zhou Hangsui walked over to Elder Zhou and his friends. Elder Zhou said that they should all follow him. Elder Zhou and the young men positioned themselves in the cave. The elder engaged in meditation and self-healing. The young woman asked Shishan what they should do now. The young man said that Master Zhou would obviously need some time to heal his wounds. Wang Shishan remembered about the girl he had freed from the dungeon under the bed. Tong Chai. The young man said there was someone he had in mind who could help them. Shishan told his friend to follow him. This place must be safe. Therefore, Qingling will take care of the master and they will quickly find someone and return. The young men, as they passed by, heard the conversation coming from inside again. Someone was saying that they shouldn't do this because the deputy head, Master Lu, was about to wake up. A young man told his fiancée that he wouldn't wake up so soon. Uncle gave him some medicine so that he will recover his strength for a while, and he will sleep. The girl told the young man that she belonged to him for so long, therefore there should be no hurry. Uncle Huan said for them to be serious. They cannot make mistakes. The young man said there was no need to be afraid. Other than the outer gate master, most of the others were caught, and Master Zhou was seriously injured. Even if he recovered, he wouldn't be able to pass through here because of the protective barrier. The young man added, if his uncle was able to seize control of the sect, then no one else would be able to become a hindrance to them. The girl said that it should not be forgotten that Wang Shishan was left behind. After all, he was the one who replaced the plaques. He also robbed the medicine storage room. The young man replied that it was nothing. If the young man risked meeting his uncle, he would realize that compared to him, he was just a pathetic bug. The young men entered the room and Wang Shishan said that it was just a coincidence. The bug they were just talking about is going to teach someone a lesson today. The young man wondered, how dare this Shishan show up here? Did he really think that they were still in the Tower of Trials? The young man said that they were precisely not in the Tower of Trials. That means that if he destroyed someone, it would be for real. The groom wondered, are the young men in such a big hurry to get killed? Wang Shishan was tired of this worthless talk and approached his opponent and gave him a right hook. The young man's mouth bled. Shishan said that it was now Shi Zhen's turn to deal with this rascal. Shi Zhen said he wouldn't do that. Wang Shishan said that his colleague has no sense of teamwork. We mustn't forget that his master is now suffering from the injuries that Master Lu inflicted on him. Does Shi Zhen really not care? Wang Shishan said for Shi Zhen to deal with the opponent in that room. After that, the young men visited the basement room where Tong Chai was. The room was empty. Shishan thought, did she really leave? The young man said, fortunately, he had prepared himself. He took out a jar and opened it. From there, a treacherous butterfly flew out. Zhizhen was frightened and asked where did it come from. Wang Shishan said that they should follow this butterfly. An elder appeared, and when he saw the young men, he shouted with fear, who dared to do such a thing? The picture the man saw really shocked him. Zhizhen asked his interlocutor, is it true that with the help of this butterfly, you can find anyone? The young man added, it seems that his master had once found him in a pit just because of this thing. Shishan noticed that this direction was leading them outside the sect head's residence. Shizhen assumed that there was some secret place in the outer gate. Shishan said that he wasn't sure yet. He had been there before, but he was just wandering around the head's residence. He remembers that there's supposed to be a bamboo forest there, not far from the mountains, but he's never gone that far. Shishin asked fearfully, could a strong spirit beast be kept there? Shishin said, his interlocutor is already at the 10th level of the realm of primordial existence after all. He shouldn't be afraid of spirit beasts at all. Suddenly, someone shouted out where these young people had gathered, and not far away from them, an explosion rang out. The young men barely had time to bounce aside. Huang Tianming appeared in front of the young men. The man shouted that the youth had ruined his nephew's wedding and stolen the pills. He had also subjected his nephew to ridicule. Tianming shouted, if he didn't tear the young man's body into pieces right now, he wouldn't be able to get rid of this hatred in his heart. Zhou Changsui decided to distance himself from his opponent and activated the defense field. Suddenly, a stranger appeared beside Shizhen. The young man asked who he was. The stranger said that he was the deputy head of the medical school, Xiatian Shi. The deputy head asked, since when did the Xuantan sect acquire 2 disciples of this level? Xuantan used a strange green disc for defense and offense. Wang Shishan had dealt with this young man and sent him away from the sin. The young man said that there was no need to fear people with such a low level of heavenly mystery realm. The deputy head of the medical school returned holding that green disc and said for everyone to get ready. A young man threateningly said that he would finish everyone off now. Wang Shishan told the interlocutor that his enemy was that elder, and this young man would be dealt with by Shizhen himself. Wang Shishan decided to fight for real against Elder Tianming. The man asked, "How could this be possible? The young man is only at the 9th level of the primordial existence realm. How is he going to fight him as an equal?" Wang Shishan said that he had slightly underestimated his opponent. It was now clear how he was able to capture all the other sect masters. The elder thought, how was the young man able to determine his cultivation level? After all, he's not at the level of a realm of primordial existence. Then what is his level? Wang Shishan said that he was a disciple of the primordial existence realm, but his opponent was too inattentive. The young man attacked his opponent and applied the 9-headed dragon to him. A huge dragon appeared and was about to attack the elder. The dragon made such a powerful strike that the elder flew far back and hit a rock and destroyed it. He thought, how is this possible? The elder asked, what's going on? The young man is only at the 9th level of the primordial existence realm. After all, he shouldn't be able to harm him, not even by surrendering his spiritual body to the flames. The man asked what spell his opponent was using. The young man thought that although Huang Tianlin's aura had been pierced, this blow could not save him. The only thing left was to take Shizhen and run away from here. Only by retreating would they have a chance to survive. Suddenly, Shizhen fell from the sky. This must have been the aftermath of the battle he had with the Green Disc youth. The deputy head said that the young man was also quite talented. Would he be willing to become his disciple? If he agrees, then we'll have to spare him. Shizhen said he doesn't agree. The young man with the disc said that means the young man has guts, and said they have a chance to see who wins, his sharpening stone or his opponent. Suddenly, Wang Shishan jumped up and punched the green disc youth in the jaw. The young man lost his balance and dropped the disc from his hands. The blow was so strong that the deputy head fell to the ground and couldn't get up. Wang Shishan walked over to the sharpening stone. Shizhen, looking at the sharpening stone, remembered his friend Shizhen. Tianming appeared again and said, if the young man was able to defeat his deputy, then he can definitely expect no mercy now. And the elder said that he would destroy the young man without regrets. Everyone saw that Shizhen was standing on his feet again. It seemed that he was completely unharmed. Tianming shouted that this was a breakthrough. Shishan added that this young man had withstood a very strong attack. Suddenly, a storm broke out in the sky. Huge clouds appeared. A golden bell appeared from behind the clouds. At Prince Ju's mansion, Zhu Baishan said, he didn't expect anything less from the Huantian sect. Master Tianming said that this young man's breathing was knocked out. Yes, and his body is badly injured. He doesn't think that the young man will be able to withstand the breakthrough to the next realm. Master Tianming thought that he should first destroy this fellow before dealing with Wang Shishan. In the sky below the bell, Shizhen appeared in a huge ball in the sky. And now everyone could see who had made the breakthrough. Master Tianming thought that the bell had broken through 10 times. How could this be possible? Could this guy really be able to start a breakthrough at the 10th level? The hermit elder in the cave thought, could it be that someone is trying to make a breakthrough from only the 10th level? How many years had it been since he had seen something like this? The elder wondered what kind of genius was able to do such a thing. Zhou Changyue thought that he and Master Zhou had restrained Xiao Shizhen's cultivation to allow him to reach the ideal 12th level. But if his breakthrough had already begun, there was no turning back. Master Tianming said, he didn't know how the young man was able to start the transition to another realm from the 10th level, but from the looks of it, this young man might be about to perish. A powerful beam of light pierced through the clouds and struck the rocks. A huge explosion formed and a hole appeared in the rocks. The elder said, as he had predicted, this young man was most likely dead. Tianming said that it was now the young man's turn and rushed towards Zhu Changshui. Zhu Changshui thought, Shizhen found the time to stage a breakthrough. After all, they wanted to escape from here together. The young man said that there was no turning back now. It felt good to feel how much his strength had increased. The young man thought that in any case, now he would not have to endure the master's abuse. Thanks to this breakthrough, he would be able to study in peace. Angry old man, Master Tianming asked, are they really just going to flutter their tongues like this? Xiao Shizhen, who had greatly increased his strength, struck Tianming in the chest, and the man flew far back. Zhou Hangshui said, since his friend was able to successfully complete a breakthrough from the 10th level of the primordial existence realm, his strength now reached around the middle of the heavenly mysteries realm. The young man thought that this old man was half a step away from the true spirit realm. If he wasn't injured and he wasn't overwhelmed by the breakthrough strength, there would be no chance of fighting the old man. He couldn't understand how this was possible, breaking through to the realm of heavenly mysteries from only the 10th level. He thought that such a thing was only possible in legends. Shizhen asked if they were still too weak to fight this elder, then what would they do? Chang Shui replied that means it's his turn. He couldn't see any other way. The storm over the mountains continued. The clouds became even blacker. A new glowing sphere appeared in the air. Did the young man also decide to try to make a breakthrough? The elder couldn't understand. Who were these youths? Shizhen replied that they were just disciples of the Xuantian sect. The man counted the 10 strikes of the bell again. He thought they were being bullied. After all, they must not be ordinary disciples. Who are they, really? Tianming said that his opponent had better come clean sooner rather than later, or he would destroy them all. The man heard the 11th strike. He shouted no matter how many levels his opponent reached, he would not let him survive the breakthrough ceremony. The elder activated the eye of the celestial turtle and said that the young man was about to die. The opponent used an 8th form scaly shield and repelled the old man's attack. The people on the ground heard the 12th strike. They couldn't understand what was really happening. Was such a thing possible? None of them had heard of such a thing before. Everyone was at a guess as to who was going to make a breakthrough this time, especially after the 12 strikes of the bell. Tong Chaiyi thought that this was the peak of the heavenly mystery realm. Who could it be? The young man stated that he fortunately barely made it in time. The young man added that the rest was left to his friend. Elder Tianming also guessed that this was the peak of the heavenly mystery realm. This is an unprecedented event. An ancient elder rose from the crypt and said that he was ready to surprise the Wanyan sect. Zhou Changshui said that he had now reached the realm of heavenly mysteries, and there was only a little bit left to the true spirit realm. Zhou Changshui approached Master Tianming and hit him hard in the face with his fist. Tianming flew far back and fell to the ground, forming a pit. The young man said that his opponent had fallen very low. Why is he attacking people while they are going through the breakthrough ceremony? Zhou Changshui found Tianming lying down and pulled him out of the ground. He asked the young man if he had already finished the ceremony. Zhou Changshui said that they were both now at the same level of the heavenly mystery realm. Zhijin said his interlocutor, abnormal, bringing him here against his will, now these blows that almost took his life. Zhou Changshui wondered, how dare Zhijin get angry with him? After all, he was the one who had helped make the breakthrough. Normally, if one realm's cultivation did not reach perfection, it would be almost impossible to successfully complete the breakthrough ceremony. Zhijin stated, however, he had become considerably stronger, and now no one would dare to tear him away from his books. Zhou Chengxi said, to the best of his knowledge, in order to break through to the true spirit realm, one must have the perfect level of the past realm before the breakthrough. The young men separated in different directions. Zhijin said that he just wants to read books, in hopes to be left alone. Zhou Kengshui noticed that Elder Tianming was coming to his senses, and said that it was dangerous for them to stay here. The young man grabbed Shijin by the scruff of his neck and said that they should leave this place immediately. The black-cloaked young man said that this young man was able to reach the ideal in the realm of primordial existence. Zhu Changshui recognized him. It was Qiu Wen. Qiu Wen thought that this young man was being very brazen. Zhou Changshui thought that Qiu Wen was very fast. The young men bypassed the passage through the rocks and ran toward the forest. Already in the forest, they decided to take a break. The young man met Tong Chai. She asked if the young man had reached the ideal in the realm of primordial existence. The young man saw this girl sitting in the depths of the cave on a throne. The young man thought that this was the power of the true spirit realm. Zhou Tengshui bowed and said that he was thankful for the master's help. The girl approached the young man and tried to heal his body. The young man flinched in surprise. The girl said that only those who have the 7 seals are able to pierce the heavens and create their own worlds. And the young man has a great talent. From today, he will be her apprentice. And asked if he agrees. Zhu Changshui replied that he didn't agree. The guy said that Tong Chai was only a step away from the ideal of the heavenly mystery realm and the primordial being realm. But she had already made a breakthrough to the true spirit realm. Because of this, there are only 3 seals on her body, so she won't be able to create worlds. The young man added that he could help the girl reach the ideal of the past realms. The female interlocutor was surprised and asked how. Jijin tried to see something on his body. Yo Chung-sui, with an apple in his hand, asked what the interlocutor wanted to see there. After all, he only had 1 seal, but even one was unrealistically difficult to obtain. After all, he was told not to rush into a breakthrough. Now he could blame himself. Shijin said he was just curious to see. And who says he's dissatisfied? He doesn't care how many of these seals there are. Shijin said that when he can get out of here, he will definitely find a secluded place where no one will ever find him, and he would be able to read whatever his soul desired. The young man added that soon he would definitely be able to get a grant and would work hard for the good of his homeland. The young lady once again decided to check for the seal on her body. Jo Chang-sui looked at her seals and said that the way of heaven is connected to the way of earth. There are 5 elements in this world. The young man said that only after passing the 3rd level, they are able to transform the QI energy into a new seal and gain the ability to create their worlds. The girl said for him to continue. Jo Chang-sui said since they both made a breakthrough after the perfect level at the previous realm, they got the seal. The young man added that other ordinary cultivators were unable to see the strength level. The girl's breathing is soft and full of energy, but the flow of qi is unstable and hard to balance. It's all because she lacks 2 more seals. The young man added that she lacks the seals of fire and earth. The girl asked how she could get them. The young man replied that she needed to find a source of energy. Each of the 5 elements originated in its own personal energy source, but it is extremely difficult to find it. The young man added that the sources exist between heaven and earth. No one is able to take possession of them. As long as this world continues to exist, the sources of energy will always be somewhere in it. There is always hope to find them. The girl said that the young man was right. As long as she is in this world, the possibility of finding the energy sources is there. The young master entered this room. He said that there was expectedly no one here. The elders noted that there was no one left. Apparently, they had all fled by now. One of the elders remarked that as long as the mountain barrier held, not even a fly could pass through it. The newly arrived elder said to summon everyone immediately. Even if they had to turn the entire sect upside down, they were obligated to find everyone who had escaped. The girl was resting in the shadows. She had no idea what had happened to Brother Shishan, but they had left the cave without leaving any word. What if he couldn't find them? Master Zhou had told Qingming to relax at least for a little while. He's not even worried about his disciple. Brother Shishan is smart enough, and nothing will happen to him. The elder added, instead of sitting here, she can find a place and meditate. Master Zhou added, the girl looks very weak. She should train more so that she doesn't become a burden. The man said that he had recovered his strength already, so he would go look for young people. Master Zhou noticed that he had prepared a bath of healing herbs inside the house. If the girl wants to not be a burden, she should take it. Stration Zhou said that Chuang Tianming must have died a long time ago, and his spiritual art school is free. Master Zhou said he wondered how he would feel if someone stole his precious card. Zhu Chengsui spent the night in the cave. In the morning, he woke up and stretched. The young man said once he got a good night's sleep, he could feel his strength had increased significantly. Just how tangible was the difference between the realm of primordial existence and the realm of heavenly mysteries? Xiao Shizhen continued to sleep, lying nearby. The young man woke him up by prodding him with his legs. Zhou Chengshui said that when they were done with their business, Shizhen could go anywhere. Right now, they have a lot of people to save. Shizhen asked, does his friend still want to save someone? The interlocutor said that yesterday was just a warm-up. Today, the real battle will begin. Shizhen said that in that case, it would be better to do it without him. Zhou Chengshui said that in that case, when he sees his master, he will definitely say that the young man needs more training. Shizhen said that in that case, he's going with his friend. Tun Chai came up and asked if they were awake. The young man replied that he was ready to go, to save people. The girl asked, why is the young man asking her to save people? After all, she doesn't care. Zhu Chengsui asked if she doesn't care about him either. What about their relationship? The girl said, what does this have to do with the young man? After all, she was referring to everyone else. If he tries to flirt with her again, she will finish him off. Zhou Tongsui asked if she was the one who said she wanted to become his master. The girl said, in that case, he should fall at her feet and bow 3 times, and also bring her a cup of tea, and then she would officially accept him as her apprentice. The young man defiantly took the cup of tea from the table and drank it himself. Shizhen thought that this was very uncool and could end badly. The girl said that he was a rascal. The cave mistress said for both of them to get out of here immediately if they still cared about life. Zhou Chengsui returned and kissed the girl on the lips. After that, he turned around and ran after his buddy. The girl called him a jerk. The young men walked through the forest. Shizhen asked, so is this the forest behind the Xuanjian Sex Mountain? That forbidden place? Zhou Chengshui continued walking in silence. Shizhen asked, what does his interlocutor want to find here? Zhou Chengshui said for Shizhen to wait for him here. He was interested in where the strange fog came from. The young man said, now it makes sense why no one comes here. While waiting for his friend, Shizhen drew animal figures in the sand. He didn't understand either. Where did this strange fog come from here? Zhou Changshui suggested that Shijin go inside and check what was there. The young man agreed. He said he would be back soon. The young man thought that there were no trees or rocks in the fog. It seems that this forbidden land was originally some sort of magical weapon. Getting into it is quite difficult. The sect never ceased to amaze the young man. Zhou Changshui waited for his friend for a long time, but he never showed up. The young man decided that he should go look for him. The young man thought that this was not the place he had been before, and there was no sign of Shijin at all. The young man walked into the fog and looked around. He found the arrangement here very striking. The fog seemed very strange to the young man inside. Not only was it capable of dispelling consciousness, but it moved without any rules. The young man thought he was looking for a needle in a haystack. The young man noticed that it became harder to breathe. An astrolabe map appeared in front of Zhou Changshui. The young man logically thought that this map was an astrolabe map. This map consisted of 36,000 star patterns that were carefully connected to each other. The distance between each star pattern is at least 10 feet, and the distance between them remains the same when they move. The young man thought that if he couldn't find the eye of the formation, he would be trapped here. The boy thought that he was guilty of exploring this fog for no reason. Plus, his friend is also in this trap. The astrolabe map is an immortal magical treasure. It contains 36,000 formations. These formations can have different effects. Ordinary magic treasures are divided into earthly and heavenly treasures. An inner sect disciple is very proud to have an earth-level magic treasure, not to mention the heavenly level. Zhuanyan Academy regards this place as a forbidden place. They shouldn't know about the map, and it seems that this magic treasure doesn't belong to the academy. Zhou Changshui decided that he was wrong in his analysis earlier. It's not two parallel overlapping formations in this map, just a door to the back of the mountain. The young man wondered what exactly was hidden in the back of the mountain. That there must be a spiritual magic treasure hidden there? The young man also thought, how did Tung Chai know the way to the back of the mountain? The young man sat down on a rock. He thought that even if it wasn't a big secret, what good was it if he couldn't get out of this astrolabe map? The young man was surprised. How could he, an immortal world cultivator, be trapped by a small magical treasure? The young man realized that he had to find the eye of the formation. Shijin was lost in the fog. He didn't understand what was happening to him. What was this place? The young man realized that he was trapped. He was angry with Zhou Changshui. Why had he only believed him? Shijin calmed down and decided it was good that he couldn't get out of here. He doesn't have to risk his life to save people, and he can read his books here. Shijin thought, just so long as this Zhou Changshui doesn't come here, there's no need to save him. He can safely stay here for a while. Zhou Changshui was running around like an eagle through the forest and counting. The young man stopped exhausted near a rock and leaned on it. He decided that he had found the eye of the formation after all. Looking at this formation eye, the guy thought that it was an unnecessary spirit magic treasure. The previous owner must have died, otherwise he would have taken it with him. If this treasure really didn't have a home right now, then he would be its master. He would become the only cultivator with 7 seals here. Shojin continued to read his books. He was even surprised to find the word gold in one book. Suddenly, someone jabbed him from behind. It turned out to be Zhou Changshui. He asked if Shijin missed him. Shijin let out a curse. He said that he had wandered here for a very long time and was starving. He almost died from exhaustion. Zhou Changshui said he thought Shijin was comfortable here. Shijin said he's just passing the time, and actually it's time for them to save people. The young men noticed that the fog had abruptly disappeared. Where could it have gone? Shijin said that they should go quickly to save the people, so that they could return home by evening. The elder thought, something is wrong with the inner sect. There are 2 youths who have made a breakthrough to the first level of the heavenly mystery realm. The elder said he was sure that everyone had heard about the mishap that happened last night. The elder said, although all the other sect masters were captured by them except for one, the other famous masters are also traveling outside the city. With the barrier in the way, he's sure that even if the masters decide to return, there's nothing they can do. Another elder said that there are a few more masters of the Taoist sect. They are still here. The man added that there were also 2 young men who had made a breakthrough into the realm of heavenly mysteries. We should be careful with these youths. Another elder said that although these 2 youths were in the heavenly mystery realm, they were only young men and were not a big threat. The next master asked, would anyone really let these young men who had made a breakthrough escape? He was told that the man in white had saved those 2, and his level of development was much higher than those here. The elder said that one of them was already at the top of the heavenly mystery realm, and his level of development is even higher than some of the people here. Elder An, a master of the Taoist sect, predicted that there would be a disaster in the academy. But there was one factor they couldn't understand. The ancient old man replied, "Even so, so what? After all, there are also a lot of them here, so there's nothing to be afraid of." The old man added, "He's not going to act like a frightened beast. He's coming back to practice his poison. If his help is needed, he is ready to give it." The young men thought that this old man was not speaking well to them. One of them added that if one wants to talk about rats, there are indeed two of them. Zhou Changshui and Zhizhen, out of habit, overheard the conversation and decided what they should do now. A plan had to be devised. The young man declared that he had two plans and was willing to share with his friend. The dungeon where Elder Ran was imprisoned in a prison made of black magic stone could be entered through a single entrance. Therefore, the technique of disappearing underground would definitely not work. There should also be many guards inside. They should warn Huang Tianlin of their appearance, so it will be difficult to get inside. Xizhen said he didn't think his interlocutor wanted to talk about these two options. Apparently, he must have some other plan. The young men moved to the roof. Zhu Changshui says there must be a reason when something goes wrong. He assumes that they have already been discovered. Now it's their responsibility to get out of here. There were still no serious ideas. Zhu Changshui said his friend, a scholar. After all, he reads a lot of books. He must surely have some solution. Zhou Changshui took out some human figurines from behind his sinus and licked one. He offered to do the same with the second one to his friend. Xizhen didn't want to do it. Then Zhu Changshui leaned the figurine against the young man's face and helped him do it. After that, the young man threw the figurines off the roof and they flew down. Zhu Changshui recited an incantation. After that, the figures smoothly descended to the ground and transformed into their masters. Zhu Changshui and Xizhen found themselves on the ground. This was a well-tested method of moving with spells. Xizhen was surprised after all. This was a low-grade spell. Could it really be used to fool the opponents? Zhou Changshui drew his comrades' attention to the fact that there was a thunderous formation in the courtyard, and they must not act recklessly. Suddenly, an elder appeared from above them and said that these youngsters had played enough, and now they could go inside. Another elder appeared in front of the young men with an axe on his shoulder. He asked, "Are these really the same young men?" The young men realized that they had been ambushed. The ring was shrinking. Around them were the elders. The elder with the axe said they needed 4 men to surround these young men. His colleague added that they should not underestimate these young men. They had advanced into the realm of heavenly mysteries, and both of them had made a breakthrough to the primordial existence. Someone said that these two are very strange, and they don't have time to waste on these youngsters. Maybe they should just be destroyed. Zhu Changshui was telling his associate how they would proceed now, and paid attention to where the people around them were. Xizhen was upset. He said that old men were surrounding them. Aren't they ashamed of themselves? The girl with weapons in her hands shouted for the young man not to be so arrogant, and rushed straight towards them. Xizhen used his crowning blow, and the active elder, who took the initiative, was thrown far back. The man with the axe on his shoulder said that it was a disgrace, and offered to rectify the situation. He said that he would do it himself now. Zhou Hangshui said that he had seen this elder's abilities, and they would run away if he tried to attack them. The axe-wielding elder said that this was the perfect moment to show his abilities to everyone. He decided to attack the young men after all. Suddenly, 2 girls appeared over the roof of a neighboring house in the sphere. Their appearance was strange. Xizhen asked his friend, how did he know that someone would help them? Zhou Changshui replied that it wasn't these girls he had in mind. Elder Zhou also happened to be on the roof. He said that he was just trying to put on a show, but he didn't have time for that right now. The young men thought, finally he has come. Zhou Changwei thought that when he first met this person, Nian Qing, he was only at the 7th level. However, right now, he was already at the 9th level. Zhou Qingshui thought that the last time he saw this girl was at a wedding. It looked like she had gone through a great adventure to make such progress in a short time. One of the elders said that if that was the case, they wouldn't have to go through all the trouble to find them. The axe-wielding elder said that he would wait for his colleague inside. Elder Zhou asked his dear disciple who authorized him to make an early breakthrough. Zhou Changshui told the elder not to blame his disciple. If he hadn't made the breakthrough, both of them might be dead right now. Elder Zhou said that he would settle the score with him. Zhou Changshui added that he could help with that, if the man could get out of here alive. The girl told Zhu Changshui to remember to find her. The young men separated. Xizhen asked if his interlocutor knew the woman. Zhu Changshui replied that the young man would not be able to understand his family's private affairs. The young men decided to waste no time and went inside. Zhu Changshui asked where did the others go. Shijin replied that the dean's house is a spiritual treasure, just like the heavenly tower. It has many spatial dimensions. Elder Zhou said that this place was originally used to test and select masters of the Taoist sect, and he didn't expect to enter here a second time. He thinks that there are several other sect masters imprisoned here. They can say that this mission is to save the masters and also to save Zhuantian Academy. The elder once again asked, did the young men think it over carefully enough before entering? Zhou Changshui thought that he just wanted to help Qingling to save his master. Shijin thought that he just wanted to read. The elder said that in that case, they enter first. Zhou Changshui found himself at the edge of a huge and deep well. The elder said he didn't know what the young man's problem was, but he couldn't blame him for wanting to die. The elder ordered the formation to be opened. The young man thought that this thing was very difficult to control. This place was the best area for a Taoist sect master. It contained many formations. There was no definite formation of different levels of complexity here. The elder said that this formation must be revealed within 1 hour. Otherwise, it will push the opponents into the abyss behind. Although it wouldn't be fatal, but as punishment, he would suffer severe mental anguish. Zhou Changshui thought, what was the difference between capturing and suppressing his mind? The young man replied, in that case, why doesn't he live another hour? Zhou Changshui noticed that the light shield was actually getting bigger. He couldn't stand still all the time and do nothing. The young man swung around and struck the light shield. After the strike, there was an instant reaction from the light shield, and the young man flew off in the opposite direction. The young man said as expected, this shield cannot be broken by brute force alone. Zhou Changshui did not calm down and said that he would try another method. The young man jumped high up. It seemed to the young man that there was a spiritual pressure in this space. This position was already at its limit. The young man, while inside this cylinder, asked the elder if the old man could give him a clue. Why does he remain silent even when asked by a Taoist sect master? Something seemed strange to the young man. He thought that he should try to take another look at it. The boy lowered himself down to the bottom of the stone well and saw an elder inside the light cylinder. The young man thought he saw a turtle shield formation in front of him. A turtle shield formation, it is a very strong defense formation. The larger it is, the more powerful it is. The peculiarity of this formation is that the light shield is enlarged and strengthened. The young man attempted a weak strike. It was only just to test it. The strike seemed to be reflected, but he didn't notice it. The young man said that he knew this formation, so there shouldn't be a problem. The elder wondered if the young man knew about this formation. Although the formation is very strong, but it has quite a few flaws. Therefore, it's not that high ranked. Zhou Changshui added that this kind of terrain elevates these flaws to the absolute. The elder said to be less words and more deeds. If he is so sure of himself, then let him try to destroy it. Zhou Changshui stated that, in that case, one finger would be enough for him. The young man raised his finger forward and moved closer to this formation. He knew what he was going to do. The elder wondered, how did the young man know about this formation? Even though the turtle shield was not a high-level formation, it was one of the most complex formations. Zhou Changshui added that, in that case, it was also a broken formation. Could it be that he had acquired it at a sale? The young man wagged his finger and said that he had everything ready. The elder asked what he had conjured up. Zhou Changshui remarked meaningfully that for every formation, there was a way to destroy it. The turtle shield, despite its incomparable strength, was vulnerable until it opened completely. So, in the hour allotted to him, the formation should be fully open and dislodge him from the platform. The elder wondered, how did the young man know so much? The lad reminded him that any formation can be destroyed. The young man said that he had just created a dispelling spell and asked the elder how much longer could this defective shield last? The man thought it couldn't be. After all, this is the Dean's testing ground. Only a Taoist of the heavenly mystery realm level could destroy the formation. The elder said, does the young man really dream of destroying the turtle shield formation? He won't be able to do that. He'd better give up in a good way. The young man said that the final touch was left. He made a few manipulations with his hands and the deed was done. The young man approached the elder and said that there was now no formation of this old man. The elder cried out that this was only the beginning. After all, the young man, just a level of the original being. He would now show the chasm between them. The young man was tired of this meaningless talk. The young man swung around and delivered a right hook. The man was deactivated. Zhou Changshui watched the spirit leave the frail body of the restless old man. The young man said that he reeked of weakness. A disciple approached the elder sitting on the peak. The elder asked, how is this disciple doing? The young man asked, does the elder really want to fight him? If so, let him come down and show what he can do. The elder said he didn't expect his unsophisticated disciple to be so impatient. Zhou Chengshui noticed that the elder had asked for it himself, so he decided to open the formation. People began to appear from the portal. The young man thought, is it really double vision? Elder said, enough idle chatter. If the young man wants to fight him, he must first defeat the one in front of him. In front of him stood a man just like the twin brother. The young man immediately threw back the person who came out of the portal. The opponent flew far back. Another similar clone appeared from the portal. How many of them are there? Thought the young man. The young man tried the same thing. The result was the same. He thought that this was starting to piss him off. The young man thought that his exhaustion, it was only a matter of time, but it looked like there was no other way to get close to the real Liu Tianping. Xizhen attacked another clone. He had to get close to Liu Tianping at all costs. Before another doppelganger appeared, the young man realized that he had to defeat him. The young man deactivated the next clone and, pushing off, flew towards his opponent in a strong jump. The opponent thought, did this unintelligent young man really think he would let him pass him so easily? The young man found himself next to his opponent on the tower and said that was exactly what he thought. Once again, it was all over again. With Xizhen, this was the 98th time. The young man didn't give up hope. The elder said he didn't think the disciple could handle more than a few doubles. He'd better give up, because it's getting boring. The young man noticed that with each new exit from the portal, the doppelgangers were getting stronger and stronger. The strength of the real Liu Tianping is the 6th level of the heavenly mystery realm. But these doppelgangers are only at the 1st level. The boy thought that it meant that he wasn't the only one who was exhausted. The young man used different techniques, Raging Blade, Starfall. The opponent repelled all the attacks. Xizhen thought that the portal was also protected by spiritual energy. Perhaps he is defeating the real Liu Tianping. Either he is being exhausted by these clones. Xizhen felt frustrated. After all, he's just a disciple. Why is he being harassed like this? Is there even a shred of justice in this world? The young man applied the heavenly wind seal. Disclosure. After that, there was a bastion. The opponent withstood everything. He said he didn't think the young man could get this far. The elder added, he must admit that the youngster was worthy of his attention. Xizhen declared to this master, get the hell out of here. If he wants to finish him off, he should do it with his own hands, not with the help of the unfortunate clones. Tianping said, this young man better shut his mouth, and for the first time, he decided to attack him. Xizhen asked after attacking his opponent, did he know what his main weakness was? Xizhen replied, his opponent is too arrogant. The young man applied an attack, the heavenly wind seal. The young man said he understood everything, creating doppelgangers. His opponent was trying to study his technique. Xizhen looked at the lying doppelgangers and said that all those 100 times, those clones used the same technique. Because of that, he was able to adopt that technique. Tianping was surprised by the information the young man had just given him. Xizhen repeated as he had said before. His opponent was arrogant. If he didn't interfere, his doppelganger would be able to figure it out on his own. Xizhen added, did his opponent really think that he had won? The young man looked around and couldn't understand what was going on. Where had everything gone? Where was he now? Suddenly, the young man found himself in a different place, in some kind of room. In front of him stood an elder. It was the deputy sect head, Xiao Tianyi. Zhou Chengshui found himself in the broken pulse formation. The elder grabbed him by the throat and lifted him above the ground. The young man, coughing, asked, was this really all he could do? In the crimson mist formation, Elder Zhou continued his battle. He fought against an elder who wielded an axe. His opponent said that he wouldn't run far. There was also a battle in the Bloodwater formation. The elder was raising his opponents who were in the neighborhood with bows. One of the leaders said that even using formations, these weaklings couldn't handle a few pesky rats. Why are they such useless trash? The old man announced that someone had snuck into the Peach Blossom formation. It wasn't authorized. In the Peach Blossom formation, Tong Chaiyi was found to have been freed from the dungeon by Zhu Changsui. An old man appeared in this formation and asked who was she? How did she end up here? He added, does she seek death if she disturbed his gardens? The girl used her energy weapon against the old man. It was enough. The opponent wondered if the old man was so weak that he could not withstand even one blow. The elder shouted that he was about to tear his opponent apart. How could he dare to get in his way? The young man threw a few punches and the elder fell on his back, spreading his arms and legs apart. The young man said, he didn't think the sect disciple was such a weakling. It's a sheer disappointment. The elder didn't give up. He struggled to his feet and activated his spiritual powers. He summoned his energy beast. It was a huge predator with glowing eyes. Zhou Shui immediately determined that the 3-star spiritual beast in front of him, it was a 2-headed black wolf. The young man was not afraid of it. The young man thought, although its cultivation level was equivalent to Tianzhuan's, but unlike him, this beast was quite fast and had an impenetrable hide. The elder said, now he was curious to see what this kid could do. This boy once again gave the elder a staggering punch to the jaw. The man flew upward and fell to the ground. The young boy asked, was this really it? The conspirators watching the events from inside through the screen had a chance to see Tunchai deactivate the bald elder. The events took place in the garden. A young girl looked directly into the elder's eyes through the screen and said that she could see Elder Kuya. It was the young lady who asked why the elder didn't greet her. The elders remaining in the room realized that things had not gone according to plan. All their grandiose calculations were falling apart. The elder said if Huang Tianling let her favorite disciple go, she would keep him alive. Tianling said that first we should let his deputy go. Otherwise, he would strangle that girl. The elder was kneeling beside the defeated 2-headed wolf. He tearfully begged Zhu Changsui to have mercy on him. Zhou Changsui said if the opponent wanted to live, he should immediately remove the formation, because it is necessary to save those people. The elder was even more frightened and said that he would fulfill everything. In the confined space in front of the huge screen, the opposing pairs were becoming more and more. Who would be victorious? A young man with fierce eyes shouted for the elder to immediately remove his vile hands from his beloved. The elders couldn't understand how this young man had gotten here, and how did he get out of there? Another elder appeared from the portal. The man was carrying Tianming and Shijin. Both of them were senseless. Zhou Changshui was even more outraged. He shouted for that old man to take his hands off his brother. Tongchai turned to Elder Chu. After spending so much time as an obedient dog, he was really used to this kind of thing. Wasn't he? The man noticed that the one who was nicknamed the Pride of the Heavens had fallen into their trap. The girl drew her sword and said that if there wasn't this secret plot, he would have rotted deep in the ground long ago. The girl remembered the not-too-distant time when she was not alone in the steppe. She rushed after the old man and shouted for her father to wait for her. The man through the veil asked, wasn't Mrs. Tun glad to see her father again? Mrs. Tong said, how dare Kyowen do such a thing? The girl was extremely angry. Kyowen said he did not expect that she could succumb to the swelling emotions so much. The man added if her mentor was still alive, he would be terribly happy about it, and laughed. How terribly wrong the teacher was, and didn't try to fix the root of the problem. Kyowen said that old man Huang Tianming, a real pain in the ass. After all, he had saved the girl thanks to her father's techniques. Today, the Huantian sect was not what it was under her family. It has become many times stronger than before. Isn't she happy about it? Kyowen walked closer to Miss Tong and asked if she regretted giving up double cultivation with him. The girl was tired of unnecessary